Hello there, my name is Weeshie Fogarty, and you're welcome to Secrets of Kerry, a Captain Story. Teddy Gorman captained Kerry to their first glorious All-Ireland victory in 1903. Jim, what do we know about him? It's gone back so long now.
I think you'd have to start by observing that he was probably the original cute townie forward. Himself and his twin brother Jamesy featured on the 1903 final, and Jamesy also was on the 1904 final. And judging by the reports of the time, they're referred to in the Kerryman as scientific ball players. And that seems to be a contrast with the run around, catch it at random and pass it on. So it sounds a bit like Eamon O'Sullivan, you know, this idea of keep your position but work your man. I think Teddy was playing inter-county football from the age of 19 or 20. The Kerryman Records has him in 1905 at 28. And he was playing for the Tralee Mitchells, the only Tralee side, from 1896 onwards. So he was playing from 17, 18 in senior football for the whole town side, and he was playing inter-county from the age of 20, I think. And he didn't miss a game, according to the Kerryman, in that time, so he must have been a hell of a player. The 1903 final was played in 1905, and he got married soon after. I remember my grandmother saying around the table one day, I said, well, you know, Jamesy, my grandfather, played in the 1904 final, which was played in 1906. Where was Teddy? And she looked at me kind of incredulous and she said, he got married. And I kind of asked her, well, what does that mean? In that time, farm labourers wouldn't often play because the danger of injury in the game would mean they couldn't farm anymore. So it was a much more townies game. There was a bit of folklore knocking around our table in those days that married men were expected to give up the game. We know from the Kerryman's references, they described him, and I think I quote, he's a well-made man standing about 5'8" and is 28 years old. He says he's been playing football with the Tralee senior team since he was 17. He took part in his first inter-county contest about 8 years ago, and we cannot remember his absence since then. The personality bit, there's a bit of a story there about the first Kildare game, because the twins played in respective corners, and my grandfather James, he was a bit of a quiet man, you know. Teddy was a bit more spiky, let's put it like that, and you know, I suppose captains need to have a bit of that about them. So what happened was that the Kildare cornerback was giving my grandfather a bit of a rough going over, and they had a chat at the interval, and Teddy said, tell you what we'll do, we'll swap corners, identical twins. So the Kildare cornerback picks up where he left off at the start of the second half. He starts giving what he thinks is the same player another dig in the back and gets a belt for his troubles. Gets up, not too offended by getting belted, but the indignity said, you weren't like that in the first half. Not realising, of course, they were twins, you know.
Some Kildare supporters described him as a great bit of stuff.
Well, they did, but again, I mean, I'm sure they were very, I'm not taking anything away from them, I'm sure they're very talented. If to play for Kerry at any stage, you're going to be talented. But actually what it hadn't dawned on the Kildare supporters was there were two of them on the pitch. So the Kildare supporters apparently muttered to some of the Kerry supporters, who's that lad in the corner? And they said, that's Gorman. He said, he's a great bit of stuff, isn't he? He seems to be everywhere. He died in 1944 at 67. And he was manager, we have a picture here, as you will see, of the Rock team in 1928. So the Tralee Mitchells was the general Tralee team, and then obviously John Mitchells and the Rock were formed. He'd moved down to the Rock end. And of course he was to be the father of James Gawksy Gorman, as we nickname him. You know, that Gawksy was his son. And Gawksy went on to win 3 All-Irelands. I remember talking to Eamon Brown, the very fine librarian and mad keen GA historian, and he made a very good point to me. He said these were the first superstars because, you know, you didn't have television, you didn't have radio, and you'd get the word of mouth. You'd be down Rock Street waiting for the chalkboard to go up in the Kerryman offices to see how we'd done. And if I can just give you a little quote from the Kerryman of the time, it says, Tady is the captain and he deserves more than inky acknowledgement of his generalship of the team. There is hardly a finer or more experienced player in Munster or in Ireland than our worthy captain. I mean, I think in fairness, you can't expect more than that, you know.
Well, we're here in the Austin Stack Park in Tralee, and what other place can you speak about the man that captained Kerry in 1904, only the legendary Austin Stack himself. Eddie Barrett, this is his grandnephew. Eddie, what do we know about Austin Stack?
Well, obviously my knowledge is only that which was passed down amongst the family itself, but from what I can gather, he was quite an influential individual in the early years of the GA, and would have been a stalwart John Mitchell's man in Tralee when there was only one club in the town.
How did he become captain of the Kerry team then?
Well, I think probably because John Mitchell's were probably the foremost club in the county at that stage and had represented Kerry on a number of occasions. Before that, they were the original club that won the All-Irelands for Kerry.
Of course, the obvious question is, how is it John Mitchell's men come along and have the Austin Stack Club called after him?
Well, I was very lucky in as much as my mother, who was a stalwart John Mitchell's woman, met my father back about 1927 or 28, when he was a pretty dominant Rock Street player and on the Kerry panel, etc. Won a couple of All-Ireland subs medals in those days, as he used to always refer to them as being something of a lesser model. But the Barretts, there were a number of them on the Kerry panel over a period of time. My Uncle Jimmy, my Uncle Joe obviously was very dominant, and my Uncle Eddie, who died a very young man of 19 I think years of age, but was on the Kerry team. So there was a sort of a dominance on both sides of the families where football came in.
Austin didn't have any family himself.
He had no family. He married later in life. He met Auntie Winnie, as we called her, who was a great friend of Countess Markovich through the struggle, and they were married much later in life, in their 40s.
How did the name Austin Stack Club then come into being?
Our records within the Austin Stacks Club, as a former chairman, I'm telling you this one, it appears that sometime in the mid-30s or so, the club adopted the name Austin Stacks GA Hurling and Football Club at that particular stage.
I would imagine that his football career didn't last that long, not that we know of Eddie. Talk to us about how his political life took over and what it entailed.
Well, he obviously had the secretarial job for the Kerry County Board from the period that he gave up playing football, and he appears to have given up playing football for Kerry sometime around 1906, which would make him only 25 or 6 years of age.
Because he also won an All-Ireland in 1903. He won 2 All-Ireland medals.
He did, but he only captained them once, and from what I can gather, his influence at that stage was with Conor na Gaeilge. Obviously the follow-on of the IRB Fenian movement as such. He actually lived in the Rock, right next to Barry's shop, for a number of years, where he used to give Irish classes in digs that he had there. And of course he worked in a number of legal practices as a legal clerk in Tralee, as did his brothers. His father, William Moore Stack, was a legal clerk as well. So the legal side of it was in the family, and of course later on he then became effectively the First Minister for Justice in Ireland.
What was his involvement in the landing of the arms with Roger Casement?
Well, he was the commandant in the Kerry area, where the IRB were concerned and the IRA, and his job was to make sure that the arms got in one hand, because secrets could be easily lost through too many people knowing about things. Sometimes he's described unfairly as not making the attempts to free Casement, but on the other hand he was sworn to secrecy, that no matter what happened he couldn't leave the cat out of the bag regarding the starting of the rising the following Monday. And when Casement was down in what was then the RIC station in Tralee, he was bound not to go in and free him or let the cat out of the bag regarding the arms, etc., etc.
He was on hunger strike for how long? How did that come about?
He appears to have been on very long hunger strikes. He was on a particularly long hunger strike above in Crumlin Road in Belfast, and there are a string of letters between Michael Collins and himself over that particular period, which my mother years ago gave to Kilmainham Jail to their trust, and they're there for anyone to read there.
Austin Stack died a young man.
He was 49. He's buried in Glasnevin, quite close to the Republican plot.
Had he a big GA presence at his funeral?
He appears to have had a very, very big funeral. It was a very political funeral, of course, because he was still secretary of Sinn Féin when he died in 1929.
Well, I'm here at the home of Tom Costello, the man who captained Kerry to that legendary All-Ireland victory in 1909. It was here that great Kerry footballer was born.
He lived here with his parents, and he had two brothers and one sister. And his father was not very much pro the GA or pro football. His father would describe Gaelic football as tufty fools following a bag of wind around the field. But Tom Costello was lucky in that he had a great friend, Mick O'Connell, who lived over in Ballyseedy, where Dan Pearson family live now. And he was called for him and take him to training and so on and so forth.
Describe Tom Costello, the footballer, to us.
Well, he wasn't a very tall man. He was only about 5'9", 5'10". He was tremendously strong. He kicked with the kitog. He was a left-footed kicker. He had great body strength. Dick Fitzgerald described him as a back that had great speed, and I think that at that time backs didn't have great speed. There was a lot of physicality in it.
There's a great story about in his later years when he was older about kicking the ball, the length he could kick it.
He could kick a ball from the limekill and he could land it into the yard. So I think like you could talk about 70 or 80 yards. And there's a description of a match that he was asked to take a free once, and he drove the ball 80 yards. Nobody collected it, went straight to the net. So I presume like that long kicking was his forte.
Michael, we have an absolutely stunning photograph here of the family. You might bring us through it.
Yeah, we have a photograph here of the family of the Costellos. This is Tom Costello, the footballer. There are his medals. There are 3 All-Ireland medals, a Croke Memorial medal, and these are his parents, Tom Costello, Mary Costello, and his 2 brothers, Bill Costello, Pat Costello and Ellen Costello, or sisters.
He was married to Maurice McCarthy's sister, and Maurice McCarthy was a legendary Kerry footballer who also won 5 All-Irelands. The last one was 1914.
That's right, yeah. I was often wondering to know why did Tom Costello get the captaincy in 1909, but Maurice had the misfortune, I suppose we'll say, of captaining a Kerry team in 1905, and Dublin beat him, so that was where Maurice's captaincy went.
The late, great Brack O'Regan told me one time that it was Tom Costello that got him started on the Kerry team.
Bracker was at Mass one day in some selection committee, and he said, "You're on today." Bracker said, "Did somebody die?" Then I got on, and then he said, "No, Tom Costello got you on." Even though he said there was Rock Street, and there was a bit of rivalry between Rock Street and Borby that time, but Bracker said himself that he got him on first time.
What has it meant to you to carry the name of Tom Costello in such a traditional football hotbed as Kerry?
Well, it was a great honour and it was a great respect to have been given the name, and I think that, I suppose looking back at it, when I was a young boy, my hand was often shook with respect to having been got that name from older people. I would have met a lot of the John Joe Sheehys, Deanie Breen, Deenie Curran from the older teams. I would have met all those, It was a great name to have, and I think this year, when it was the centenary of his All-Ireland, it was wonderful to be at Croke Park, to be there on the day.
Talking about his final years.
Well, he actually died in 1934. He died quite young. He'd have been mid to late 40s.
Michael, how would you like Tom Costello to be remembered?
As a great footballer and an honest and fair man, that when he was a selector as a referee, and that everything he did for the good of the GA, and that he was fair and honest about it.
The legendary Dick Fitzgerald played with Kerry from 1903 to 1923. He captained Kerry to two memorable victories, 1913-1914. What had he, father, as a captain? Why was he so important in the history of Kerry football?
He was a very astute man, he was a very intelligent man, Dick was. What people maybe don't remember about him was he spent 10 years as a politician in the town of Killarney, urban councillor, educated in St Brendan's College, National School of course in Killarney. He went to Mungret College for a year, and he also went to the Prez Brothers in the Mardyke in Cork. So he was very well educated, but also had a great football brain, and he had a great political sort of view of things. He was a very affable person, great love for the Irish language, and he was a great man's man, I think. As a leader in the field, of course, unparalleled, because in his own book written in 1914, How to Play Gaelic Football, he has 2 pages. He's a bit humble about that, really.
And he writes about his conception of what captaincy is, father, doesn't he, in his book?
He maps out what the captain's job is. He also says the quality of the captain must be enthusiastic and keen. He said, actually, somebody might like this, he should be one of the older men on the team. And by old, he meant experience. He says experience is very, very important. And he was captain that year, 1914, when he published this book. That was before the outbreak of the First World War. And he also said that he must be kind to the lad who's not great, always encouraging. He must be able to inspire. And he said he must be the kind of person who can, pull the game out of the bag in the last few minutes if needs be.
Now, we're looking at this beautiful cup here that he was presented with in 1913-14 for winning 2 All-Irelands.
Well, this is a priceless heritage, really, and it's now the property of Dr. Crowe Club in Killarney. In early 1913, I think, M.F. Crowe, he's a very important man, a Limerick man, he refereed a lot of All-Irelands and so on. He was a railway official. He saw the Crokes playing John Mitchell's of Tralee. He was so impressed. He proposed that the Rainbow come and put up a cup to raise funds for the Croke Memorial. Kerry beat Cork with a poor Kerry team, and then they were in the final. So there was a cracking game, a marvellous game. Dick Fitz, you see, was captain. Why so? Because Crokes were county champions 3 years in a row, 1912, 1913, 1914. So he was the automatic captain, named by his club, you see, and that's the tradition in Kerry, has been for a long time. And of course the game finished a draw. Dick starred in the drawn game. The replay was the end of June, and Kerry won a cracker.
You cover his whole life beautifully, father, in your book King in a Kingdom of Kings, and you cover in particular his death. I mean, he had a tragic end, really.
He had a tragic end, really. He was getting ready to go to the All-Ireland 1930. Kerry were going for their 9th title. He'd won 5 himself. He was still involved now as a mentor. He trained the Clare team to Croke Park in 1917 because of no Kerry County Board, because of the troubles and all of that. So he was very involved in football at club, county, provincial and central council level, administration, all of that, He'd been in prison and so on, and civil war, he took his own side, but he was all dressed up and ready to go to the match on the Friday. I think he was climbing up the top of the house, the courthouse there in Fairhill, College Street, where he was brought up, of course, where he was born, and I'd say he was waving to people going up to the train, people going off to the game Friday, you see, to go for the weekend, even in those days, and people asked him to come down, and they asked him to come down. He turned and slipped and fell.
And his funeral was one of the biggest that was ever seen for a GA personality.
It was, because I'll tell you what happened. The funeral should be therefore, Sunday morning, but the county board asked the family would they ever mind defer until Monday, because a lot of people had already gone to the game. The game was not to be called off, so there was a solemn mass for him in the Garner Street Church of St Francis Xavier, the Jesuit church in Dublin. All the county officials were there, and of course a lot of the teams.
We're sitting here in Fitzgerald Stadium, and of course that was built in specifically in his memory.
Oh, it was a marvellous tribute. My dad, Dr. Messer, and my late Uncle Paddy, they were young men at the time, and there were 39 men gathered to raise a monument, like the people raising a monument to Dr. Croke. And instead of a small statue or something, or a plaque up on a wall, which you could have, and it would be very fitting and very important, they finish up with this amazing stadium. The whole thing was built for £3,000 in 1930. Dr. Eamon O'Sullivan, he, as the head man of the psychiatric hospital here at St Finian's, where you worked yourself, got the patients through all the labour. But they must have been so proud. Imagine when that stadium was opened by Archbishop Hartley of Cashel, and then the following year the All-Ireland hurling finals played here, and those men had levelled that hill and built those terraces with labour from the town.
How would you sum up Dick Fitzgerald now?
Well, I tell you now, Pat April O'Shea gave the greatest tribute of them all, and I have his text called Football Flashbacks. On the field, he was always the captain. If an order or advice was needed, he delivered gently but firmly, for he was at heart a kind and good man. On public occasions, when speeches had to be made, Dick was equal to every demand, and yet oratory was not an exercise he greatly favoured. He was modest in victory, he was cheerful in defeat. In a word, a man whose name will never be forgotten in the kingdom.
This is Glenmore National School, and it was here in 1893, in that house over there on that side of the school, that peerless Phil O'Sullivan was born. Phil O'Sullivan, a legendary footballer, you must be very proud of him down here.
He was a great athlete, equally as good as he was at football, and he was a prominent participant in all the local athletic meetings and that, and there's no question about it that whatever athletic events he took part in, he always came out top.
Phil went to school in Glenmore. What do we know then when he finished his schooling there?
He went to Rockwell College in Tipperary.
Yeah.
He was there for about 4 years, and then he went to Waterford City to the Teachers Training College there, and he qualified as NT, National Teacher.
He was a school teacher in Ballymac, and at the same time he kept his loyalty to his local club here to assist, and to Keliher as well. He played hurling with Keliher as well as football with to assist. The story has it, and it's quite true as well, I think, that he used to cycle all the ways from here to assist back to Ballymac after the match that evening. A feat that very few people would do in those days, and even today.
When he captained Kerry to win the All-Ireland, there must have been great joy in the parish.
There was, and my mother, I remember her reading out the paper, reading out a letter from her father, who was in Dublin, Granddaddy. I told you he moved to Dublin, and he wrote to mother, describing the match.
Can you recollect what was in the letter?
Well, there's one thing I do remember about it. He said tears were coursing down my cheeks when they put Phil on their shoulders to take him.
Yeah, that was beautiful, and it would be because he was so proud of him, of course.
Yes.
So after the All-Ireland final, then he kept playing with Kerry, and then the trip came to America.
Yes,
in
26
with Kerry.
Yes.
He met a lovely young lady.
Yes.
He fell in love. Talk to us about his wife and how he met her, because it's a real love story, isn't it?
Well, there was this girl who was 18, I believe, playing the piano, and Phil went over to her because he was asked to sing. The Kerry team asked him to sing, and so she played for him. When he said, well, what is your name? And she said, Catherine O'Mahony, and that was how they met. And then he didn't come back to Ireland with the team, and they got married about a year after that. He was lovely. Of course, I adored him. We all did.
Was he a tall man?
He was not a tall man. He was stubby. I think he was 5'9". He was handsome, actually.
Yeah.
He was handsome. He was very handsome and lovely, beautiful, wavy hair. We were all crazy about him, and he'd sing at the drop of a hat. Do you know that's not a person. I'm ashamed to say I don't follow Kerry football anymore very much because I found the game had changed, and I find them throwing the ball with their hands.
People have been playing football here going back to the turn of the last century, and even local poets have written about it many years ago. So Phil Sullivan would have played football here in this pitch?
He would have played several games and took part in athletic meetings as well here. He died in New York. The Kerry immigrants in New York, they erected a headstone over his grave.
Any man from a locality who captains the county team to winning All Ireland, his memory never dies. It's always alive. And sometimes the memory is kind of tainted a bit, or maybe a lot of things added that are not true. But in general, the stories told about Phil are true. He was a legend. He was a unique man. And the achievements that he acquired at that time were unique.
One of the most renowned Kerry GA families of all time were the Sheehys of Tralee. It's unique that the father and son captained Kerry to All-Ireland glory. John Joe captained Kerry to victory in 1926 and 1930, while his son Sean Og was presented with the Samaguar Cup in 1962. John Joe was very proud of the fact that all his 4 sons won All-Ireland medals with Kerry. Here, John Joe recalls some of his fondest memories.
Every game stands out well. They all have their own particular memories. For one, perhaps the 1924 All-Ireland, which was our first and which was Kerry's first after 10 years in the wilderness, was a game that should be remembered. You might remember that we played and beat Dublin on that day with the famous O'Toole's, a wonderful club they were too, and that was a very pleasant game. But however, the 26 All-Ireland stands out stronger in my mind and maybe sweeter. You remember we had a drawn game with your own Ivaram and poor Jack Murphy going any the Trocher on him. He played a Herculean game on that day. He saved us that day, and Bill Gorman then in the last dying minutes brought along the goal that equalised. I got a chance myself in the end, and my kick, fortunately or unfortunately, sailed wide of the post and gave us a chance of another day, which we won, as you remember, and we are All-Ireland champs in 1926.
Has John Joe been a great help to you in your playing career?
Oh yes, of course. Especially coming from a county like Kerry, which is so football conscious, and having a father who is so completely dedicated to the games. It has always been my ambition to try and follow in his footsteps.
Are people always comparing you?
Oh yes, you're saying you'll never be as good a man as your father, all that kind of thing.
And do you find that rather frustrating to hear people saying that?
No, I don't think any of it's it.
Do you believe you will be a better man, or you are a better man than your father?
No, I don't think so.
I remember John Joe Sheehy vividly playing for Kerry. In the 1924 final, he was seen to great advantage, but especially in the memorable games against Kildare, playing on Jack Higgins in 1926, the draw and replay. He almost won the draw with the last kick of his own. Later, when another Kerry star arrived, Mick O'Doyle, John Joe went to the wing, where he enhanced his reputation. What I remember particularly about John Joe was his great ground football. He was the most accurate kicker and scored from difficult angles. He was a great man to rally an apparently beaten team, and he could be described as the last of the great Kerry captains.
Niall Sheehy, growing up as a Sheehy, and even today, of course, the name is synonymous with Kerry football, isn't it, Niall?
Well, it was all football that time.
Yeah.
Every Sunday we were above in the sports field.
Yeah.
And some of my friends would go to the matinee, but there was no matinee for us, it was always the sports field. No matter what match was on, we'd be up there, every Sunday.
Niall, was it a bit of a burden for you carrying the name of your dad? I mean, John Joe Sheehy was a legendary figure, still is, of course.
No, it wasn't, no. We didn't feel it, really, because everybody was playing football that time, all the lads in Clunbeg, you know. There was about 20 young fellas around Clunbeg at the time, and we used to play teams from Castle Countess and teams from Boherby proper, you know.
You must have great memories of your dad and the boys growing up. Was it all football?
Yes, it was. Morning, noon and night it was football. But it really was a young girl's dream. Kel and myself, can you imagine all those fine footballers calling every day? Naturally we knew all the 5 in a row crowd already, who were wonderful. But we got to know all the Kerry footballers, and then when they went on further, we got to know all the Down team, the Dublin team, the Galway team. And to this very day, we're still very friendly with the McCartans, the McKnights, the O'Neills, Jimmy Keaveney.
Tell us about your mum. Who was she?
My mum was a very, very beautiful woman. She was Nora Murphy from Kishgame in County Cork. He had to go over the border to get a wife. It was a bit of fright.
What kind of an individual was John Joe Sheehy? What kind of a dad was he?
Well, he was fine out. Of course, it was all football, football and hurling, and going to matches. And when I'd be playing then, I'd have to give a full report that night, who played well and what was the team, and he'd go through everything.
Very passionate man, Niall, wasn't he?
Oh, very passionate, yeah.
Then in 1962, when Sean O captained Kerry to that historic win over Roscommon, yourself and Paddy were playing. What did it mean to the whole family and to yourself to be on the team with Sean O?
There was a lot of tension anyway.
Was there?
Before the match. But we were hoping the match would be over and won, But it was great when we won, naturally. But before the match was very tense. There was terrible tension in the house and everything. So I think we were the first 3 brothers to win in All-Ireland together.
What was the homecoming like, Niall, in 62? If you probably remember when Sean Og was brought back to Kerry with the cup and the 2 brothers with him.
It was fantastic altogether. Fantastic.
What's your fondest memory of it?
I think going through Keliher station, as a matter of fact, Weeshie, Sean Og was cheered down, we got off the train in Keliher, and they cheered him down on their shoulders. And there was great excitement altogether.
Playing together must have been very special to be inside in a dressing room and go home at night and talk about it. Something special, isn't it?
Oh, it was very special.
Yeah.
The only thing I say, if one of the lads got a dirty belt, like you said, it would upset you. Right?
Yes, yeah. What's your fondest memory of playing with your brothers, Niall? What victory stands out playing with the boys?
Well, I suppose the 59 county championship, that was the first one we won.
Yeah.
And Paddy had played in, I think, two before that, and he never won anything. So he was delighted altogether. And it was the first time the 4 of us were in a championship team together.
Paddy was one of the first of the stylish, he was a very stylish player, very fast. And what I remember from Niall was running along and chipping the ball up in full flight. Yeah.
Well, he trained a lot, he practiced that a lot, yeah.
Did he? Yeah. And of course, Brinesy was an outstanding midfielder, played with Mick O'Connell and played against him and everything.
Played with Mick O'Connell, yes. He was a great fielder, and he started off, of course, cornerback, but then Paddy and Brendan Gallagher were centre field for Mitchells, and they were about 5'5" each, so Brinesy had to go out centre field and catch a few high balls, which he did, and he played very well thereafter.
And finally, Niall, your dad, when he died, talked to us about his final days and the funeral.
Well, he was sick for about 2 or 3 months. He had diabetes,
Well,
he had diabetes all his life.
Yeah.
But he was tough enough out finish. He died in the bonds,
Yeah.
But
he got a massive send-off.
He got a massive send-off.
Yeah. That's very special to family to see their dad getting a big send-off.
Well, it was. We didn't expect that send-off.
Yeah. Well, we're here in the village of Moynihan, the home of the legendary Con Brosnan, who captained Kerry to victory in 1931.
Con was captain of the Kerry team in 1931 by virtue of Rockstreet Tralee and Joe Barrett. They won the championship in 1930. And I think that, you know, it was a sign of what esteem he was held in as well. That was given to him because at the time he was after playing in 3 losing county finals. He lost all 3, having captained all 3. And you know, for that point of view, I suppose they recognised his worth and his value, and as a footballer. Rockstreet were the main team at the time, and they had won, and they had captained the Kerry team. And as a magnanimous gesture to Con and to his work to the Kerry team, they gave him the captaincy of the Kerry team for the 31 All-Ireland.
What does it mean to be the son of Con Brosnan?
Well, for me, I suppose I wouldn't dare play football at all. So I won 2 medals that but I wasn't much good. But the 2, Jim made up and me all made up for me then. So to all football, yeah, all morning, noon and night, to nothing but football. When we were young as grown up, we'd be outside in the yard kicking the ball and he was outside with us and we'd have to kick. It didn't matter for us, we'd have to do it was nothing but kicking the ball and making footballers out of us. But he failed to make a footballer of me.
We always had the medals as the background in the bar, and any time you were in the bar you were immersed in football and in success really, and there was always, my van, football was always going strong, and they opened the field in 1984 in honour, and I suppose at that stage we learned a good bit more about Con, because sometimes it wouldn't be spoken about because it wouldn't come up very often, but at the time that the football field was open it came up, and the park was called after him, so it was a great honour. And at the time for the booklet they had a history of Con, so we did learn a lot about it at that time in particular.
It was tough on me because they all thought I was going to be right good, and I was going, when my father didn't break the mould and be as good as his grandfather, they thought I was going to be the man then. So I didn't know.
It is hard to carry the name.
It was, to be honest with you, because I wasn't living up to everybody's expectations, and for that reason it wasn't easy. You got a lot. I went away to boarding school at 12, and when you were up there, a lot of the teachers, when they found out who you were, oh, this fella's going to win all around him here for us at college here and everything. But yeah, I played away. I was, I suppose, more like my father than my uncles, Jim and Michal. I played away. But my memory, I played away with my van, and I enjoyed it. I had 10 or 12 great years playing away with my van. I don't think I'd be remembered for my football ability now, but we just enjoyed it.
What are your memories of your grandfather?
I'd remember him, I was 12, just 12, the same month as he died. And you remember him walking up and down the road, and you'd remember him as being very stern, straight walking man, and when he'd see you kicking the ball or anything, you know, you'd nearly be half afraid, because I still remember him being he'd want you to kick it in a door, and when you'd miss the door, you were in trouble, and the ball didn't always go where we wanted it to go. But you know, he was always out watching you playing football, and he'd want you kicking it. And I remember below in the front of the house one time he'd be there with you kicking it, and it was all ball, all right, I suppose, with him.
What had he that made him such a great footballer?
I don't know, Wish. I suppose it really is legendary stuff, isn't it? You know, you'd have to say that, his whole contribution to it. You know, he didn't come from football pedigree before it. There was no athleticism that we know of in the family before him. His own father reportedly came from America and bought this pub here around late 1800s. He was supposed to have come from America in the gold rush. They given him the captaincy in 1931. That, for me, probably epitomises the man. It was some gesture to gift him that time, and it didn't even go down well in Tralee with a lot of the Tralee crowd, but you know, the footballers saw that football was his heart and that was his love, and that's what he wanted.
That, more than anything, I suppose, more than any winning his 6 medals, that one gesture is very, very special in his whole life, isn't it?
I think so. I think, you know, even in today's terms, there was more players in Tralee in the Rock to get the captaincy again, and they sought to give it to this man outside in North Kerry. You put it in today's circumstances, if Austin Stacks won the county championship today, you know, and they gave the captaincy out to Field Rangers, wouldn't go down well in Tralee, would it? You know, it was in a lot more troubled times that time. You know, we were after coming out of a civil war, and you know, he must have left some impression on all the players for everyone to agree with it and to do that. Like,
how do you think your grandfather is being remembered?
One of the great legends of Kerry football at midfield, you know, because he was only reportedly 5'10", and everybody seems to have memories of him being a mighty fielder and having a desperate spring for a ball and that kind of thing. So I suppose, you know, he must be up there with him, and you know, that would be what you would remember him of. Yeah.
How will you remember your dad? How will you remember the legendary Con Brosnan?
Which, as a footballer, anyway, that was all like.
We would never have seen Con Brosnan play football. A lot of people would never have seen Con Brosnan play football. A lot of people would never have seen a lot of the modern day footballers play football. But from what has been written and what has been said, Con Brosnan must be up there with the greats of Kerry football.
Gabriel, the pitch in my van, of course, is called after Con Brosnan, isn't it?
Well, indeed it is. And who else would it be called after? You know, the greatest footballer that came out of my van. And my van has produced many All-Ireland winning footballers, including sons of Cons. But Con was the greatest. Con was reckoned to be one of the finest midfielders that Kerry ever produced. And on the 17th of June 1984, the field was dedicated to him and opened by Kerry playing Laois. And a local man at the time, Johnny Mulvihill, who was a Kerry footballer, captained Kerry on that day. And we beat Laois. Sean Welch was the chairman of the My Van club at the time, and he commissioned a local poet, a very fine man, a very fine poet and a fine storyteller called Dan Keane, who is, I think, 91 years of age now, still with us, thanks be to God. And he commissioned a poem for the opening of Con Brosnan Park. When but a child I heard his name poured out from lips that spoke with pride, I relished every loud acclaim, my heart like theirs felt overjoyed. I placed him in the Fianna mould, through childish dreams the vision ran. I longed to see the green and gold, I longed and hoped to meet this man. This man in later years I met, his manner harboured no disguise, his honest heart and goodness set, with modesty his greatest prize. And yet sufficient spirit reigned to stand for right, to raise to flame the bursting cheers that oft acclaimed his jewelled movement in this game. This game he loved and sporting played, from antiquity's ancient store, the living spark official made, and trained the Gael to love it more. The names with pride we still recall, their souls its source, their hearts its shield. Through time and space we bless them all, and make their monument this field through which he calls in trust the Gaels to love and play the game. God keeps his soul, the grave his dust, we proudly give this field his name. And here while summer breezes kiss the bending grass and steal away, we play the game in hours like this, we bless this man, this field, this day.
Joe Barrett of Tralee was the first Kerry captain to bring the Sam Maguire Cup to Kerry in 1929, and he also captained the Kerry winning team of 1932. His son Jojo joins us to talk about it. Jojo, what did it mean to you later in life, and what did it mean to your dad having captained Kerry in 29 and 32?
Personally, as a footballer myself, it put terrible pressure on me. You carry the thing in your shoulders all your life. You'll never be as good as your father. There was no doubt about that.
Handing over the captaincy, that was a marvellous gesture. Talk to us about it.
It was a great thing to do, of course, but I think between Con Brosnan and Joe Barrett there was a great bond. And I don't think it would even count to my father at the time, the extra captaincy. I said what was very important was to honour Con Brosnan. There were an awful lot of people within the Rock opposed it at the time, and he had to suffer a vote, various moves to oust him in the club, and that went on for quite a long time. It went on for decades in actual fact.
During that time, Joe, there was a lot of political upheaval and people were on both sides. Talk to us about that, because they really knitted the county together.
Well, Tim O'Donnell told me there were times when fellas actually togged out outside the dressing room. They came in ready to play because of the atmosphere in the dressing room. I mean, it wasn't all rosy at all. It was tough enough. And Porty Lander said the same thing. He said you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. He said it was just so tough. But fellas still did it. Fellas still went in and they joked each other, and some fellas maybe didn't joke each other, and it was cool enough at times. Johnny Welsh gave me great insight into the actual atmosphere. He was on a train going to an All-Ireland, and Con Brosnan was in the carriage, and Johnny made a political statement. Johnny was only about 17 at the time, and he made a political statement, and Brosnan said, young fella, never speak politics on a football train, he said.
So what does it mean now, Joe Barrett, to have been the son of a man who captained Kerry twice, looking back down through the decades now, being the actual captain?
Well, I suppose the numbers of times he captained it really doesn't really count to me that much. You know, records don't really count that much. I think the fact that he was a good man, he believed in his country, he fought for his country, he believed in his county, he played football for his county, and he would have died for either. That was what's very important to me.
Have you any memories or have you any stories about your dad coming home with the Sam Maguire Cup?
The train would pull into the station in Tralee. Joe Barrett jumped off the train at the back, went out the back, out the last carriage, and went off across the fields and was down home, and he never appeared in that stuff.
In 1937, Kerry won the All-Ireland final. There was a great young footballer from my own club, Keliher Legion, small Timmy Leary, wonderful player. He got involved against Cavan in the All-Ireland final in 1937. Your dad was a selector. He came into the field. Tell us about that.
Strangely enough, it was the first match my mother ever saw. The first match of any sort. She had never seen a club match or anything else. My dad was on the line, and she said she was watching him. She didn't understand what was going on in the pitch, but she said she was watching him because there was something going on, and she didn't realise what it was, of course. But O'Leary was getting an awful lot of stick, and there was a guy putting the boot in, it seems. My dad was edging up along, and he had left the other selectors and was getting the better of him anyway, and he went in and he hit Jim Smith, it seems, of Cavan, and there was a huge pile-up, and there's a great picture of Porty Landers, Mick O'Doyle, and a lot of the lads from the Rock, the Stacks, going in to be of assistance.
How many All-Ireland senior medals did he have, Joe?
He had 6 senior All-Ireland medals.
When your dad was in bed sick, he sent you to the wardrobe. Tell us about that.
He was only 49 at the time, and it's in fact, I'd say this was a year before he died, probably, or within the year anyway. I had never seen this little, it was in a paper bag and then inside in a little velvet bit of cloth, and it was his collection of medals, and he said, "Get those out there, son," and I handed them to him, and it was very moving, because he went through each medal, and he obviously played each match, and he cried. He cried, and he knew it was all up at that stage, and he had a stroke, and he couldn't really move an arm and a leg at the time. So it was very moving, and it made a huge impression on me for the rest of my life, really.
Well, I'm delighted to be talking to Joe Doyle, son of the legendary Mick O'Doyle, who captained Kerry in 1937. Joe, what was it like growing up being the son of the legendary Mick O'Doyle from the Aston Stacks?
I suppose it gave us a certain amount of pride, you know, and again, as I said, back then I didn't really appreciate it because I didn't understand it. I was only a young fella growing up, and I never really played the game myself, so, you know, I wasn't any good at it. It's a shame to say, but I wasn't.
Talk to us about your dad. What kind of a man was he?
He was a very outgoing fella. He was, how would I say, a very gregarious man. You know, he would friendly to everybody and always, you know, in good form for the most part. Of course, he was a dad too, so he couldn't have always been in good form.
Would he talk football to you a lot? Would he talk about his own career?
Once in a while, not a great lot. I think in the early days when he was out there selling insurance, I suppose he promoted himself a lot more.
How many were in the family, Joe?
There's 4 of us.
Yeah, who are they?
My older brother Pat, who is deceased. My sister May, she lives on Long Island. My younger brother Mike, he lives in New York also.
What about your mum? Where was she from?
My mum was from Tralee. She was Pat Connolly's daughter. He had a pawn shop downtown where the bookie shop is now on 29 Castle Street.
And then he immigrated later in life, didn't he?
Yeah, the fortunes of war, as they say. The fortunes changed, and he was forced to immigrate, I guess, in the early 50s first. He went back and forth to England for a few years. And then in 58 he went to the States. And he stayed there until he retired in 74.
He'd have been great friends with John Joe Sheehy, the great John Joe Sheehy. And of course, John Joe was also stuck in insurance. So.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the connection or how he got in or what, but John Joe was a little older, may have more likely than not been some kind of a mentor.
Yes. To win 4 All-Ireland medals, Joe, before the age of 21, which your dad did, it's a record that will never be equal. That in itself makes him very special.
Yes, but there's a slight error there. He wasn't before he was 21. He was 21 and 5 months.
21 and 5 months, so that corrects it for the story. Then in 1937, he captained Kerry. They beat Cavan in a replay. But he wrote himself into a little bit of history again then, because he was injured during the game and he finished up in hospital.
Again now, this is something my mother told me years later, that that very same day Michael got his jaw broken. Because he went for a ball and they missed the ball and they got him. And if you knew him later on in life, he had a scar on his jaw here. And that was her, that's what she told me anyway.
So he was a great hurler too, Joe? Played a lot of hurling?
Yes. Again, I refer, my mother, she used to say that in the days when Kerry weren't doing that great after 32, they had a lapse. And she said he was offered a place on the Cork team hurling.
Yeah?
And he said no. I was with him when they were good, and when they were up, I'd stay with him now.
What became of all his medals, by the way?
And I think he gave a lot of them away. My sister has a few, and my niece has a couple, but I don't know which ones.
Did Kerry mean a lot to him, George, when you were a young boy? Did he follow the fortunes of the football at the time? And as I said before, just he discussed the things with you?
He wouldn't with me, but himself and my mother would. She was a big, big fan. Yeah, they would be discussing the games and the techniques of the different players, and she could mark out every player in the game and tell you his weaknesses and strengths, and they'd be arguing back and forth about that, like any other football fans.
George, talk to us about his final days.
Well, he went away we would all like to go. He was out that night having a few pints with the boys, went home to bed and didn't get up. Fortunately, he didn't suffer. Wasn't one of these long drawn out things.
What age was he when he died?
69. In fact, he was it was the end of September. He had been at the All-Ireland that year. It was 1980.
What do you remember of his funeral? Because GA funerals are usually a big thing.
Not a lot. I was kind of numb, you know. There was the Guard of Honour, and I wasn't familiar with the protocol, and I remember when he came to chapel in Rock Street, and they took him out of the hearse, and I went to move up to the coffin, and my friend pulled me back, and he said, I remember his words, he says, "He's not yours yet, he's still theirs."
Yeah. And he's buried in Ra here in
He's buried over in Ra.
In Ra and Tralee. Finally, Joe, how important is it to remember him like we are doing in this video?
I suppose it's for a family, I guess, as I say, you get a sense of pride. But for the game itself, it's good. It's good to remember those who went before you and the ones who, I suppose, were pathfinders in a way. People who made the game what it is, and people who follow it because of them.
Tom Gege O'Connell, Captain Kerry 1939. We headed west to Dingle to visit his family. John, tell me what relation you are to Gege.
My father, Donie O'Connell of Dennis, and Gege would be brothers. There was 10 in the family, 6 boys and 4 girls. Born in Goat Street to Jimmy O'Connor and me and McCarthy, who came from McCarthy's pub just around the corner from us here. He won 5 All-Irelands with Kerry in 37. He played in his first All-Ireland. He played in that by default, really. He had left school and he went to Keliher. He won it with Bill Dillon and Sean Brosnan and Bill Casey. And he was watching them training and they were short of numbers and they asked him to play. And Dr. Raymond was impressed with him and he asked him to go to Croke Park to the replay. He came on as a sub in that and nobody knew he was there, and the commentators and everything got his details mixed up. They thought he was Goxie Gorman, but obviously it was Gege, and that's when he won his first All-Ireland.
And of course his name, Gege, there's a lot of stories about that.
Well, what I've heard is that it's the Greek name for giant. He wasn't a particularly physically big man. I'd say 5'11" would be the extent of his height. I'd say it came from his footballing prowess and a fitness fanatic as a young man. I remember my father saying that he was before his time. He used to use weights and he would be doing stamina work a lot in the winter and speed work in the spring, which was unheard of that time.
He was a top-class boxer because he fought for an Irish title.
That's right, he fought middleweight in the late 30s, didn't win it, but he was highly thought of in the boxing fraternity.
Physique, number one. Physique, strong as a horse, we'd say.
Yeah.
And he had accuracy in kicking. He was well able to score a point off a free from any angle. Well able to do it.
Yeah.
He had a most tremendous reach and a jump for the ball. He was always so fit, you see. So you've had stories about him. I said, well, this beagle's gone hunting. That was one of the problems the Dingle selectors and Dub had with him. Days of a big match, you see. He loved the mountains here. That kept him so terribly fit. And he had the bagels and the bagel club in Dingle, and after every free minute he had at all, he was up the hills with the bagels, fox hunting or hare hunting.
It was by virtue of the fact that he was on the Dingle team that won the county championship that he became captain of Kerry in 1939.
Sean Brosnan was the captain of the Kerry team that year. The week of the All-Ireland, Charles Brosnan was struck down with some virus or other. He couldn't take part. And the team was picked and all that, and Sean Brosnan was captain and so on and so on, everything right, but he had to cry off doctor's orders to be kept off. So Gege was appointed captain for the day. And Sean Brosnan's daughter, that's what she told me now, that he led the team, you see, from the, I thought he wasn't told up, from down to the edge of Croke Park, to the magic, and then he had to retire and go back and sit in the stand, and then Gege took over.
He scored the goal, of course, that brought Kerry back in in the drawing game in 1946.
That's right, people had left Croke Park, in fact, and they couldn't believe it. Afterwards, they had that Kerry had won it. And of course, the Polo Grounds in 47, he scored 2 goals, but one of them were disallowed. The year Kevin won in 47. Yeah.
He was always interested in football, and like the young fellow we have here, he was kicking a ball around the house and up and down. My mother used to say, no ball in the house.
How good a footballer was he? Now that you, looking back over his career, Kathleen, do a lot of people talk to you about Gege?
Everybody knew him. And, well, I don't know anything about football, I think, but evidently he was a good footballer.
He for a while.
He did. He was out on the Basket Island. They built a road and they called it Gege's Road.
I'm married to Dahigini. I have 2 sons. David is the eldest. He's 23, coming 24. He played minor and under 21. And hopefully eventually he'll play with the Kerry panel. And I have Michael, who's 18, and hopefully he'll come forward as well, because they live, sleep, eat, drink football in this house, and you have no choice but to follow suit.
When was the last time you met Gege?
I'd say the last time I met Gege, he wasn't home for a few years before he died, but I was actually on holidays when he died. I was abroad, and I didn't get to New York for that funeral, unfortunately.
But his name lives on, Paddy, doesn't it?
Oh, big time in the house.
Absolutely, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Because I claim my son's football came from my side, not the Gainey's.
It must have been a great occasion in Dingle when he landed back with the cup. Have you memories of that?
I have, but of course I must sad a little bit there now. So that All Ireland 1939, with Keliher captain and Sean Brosnan involved in that way, that Kerry wore the Dingle jerseys.
Why did that happen?
Because they were playing Meath in the final, and Meath also had green and gold, as we know. They have different pattern, but it's green and gold. So at that time, the system was, in the case of the clash of colours, they tossed for it.
And what did it mean then to Dingle to have a captain?
It was wonderful, big lift altogether, and especially after winning the county championship for the very first time ever in 1938, the year before, and now they had the captain of the Kerry team as well, receiving the Sam Maguire and bringing it home.
He immigrated in the late 40s, 48 to 49. Another thing that isn't widely known about Gege is that he had a great interest in politics, and he actually ran for the Fianna Fáil party for Dáil in the late 40s and was unsuccessfully narrowly beaten by another O'Connell man, coincidentally, in the late 40s, and he immigrated with Joe after that and opened a pub in Rockaway at that stage. He died in February 97, 50 years coincidentally after the 47 game. He was looking so much forward to that game, and unfortunately he passed away in February, and the match was obviously in the fall of the year.
So how was Tom Gege O'Connor now, John, perceived in Dingle and in Kerry?
There was a fish merchant here in Dingle, Micheál O'Cahan, and he passed away there about 2 years ago. He constantly, every time he saw me, he said Gege was the best footballer he ever saw, and he only missed one All-Ireland in 40 years.
He was like quietish like in himself, you know, but at the same time very funny. But when he had a couple of drinks, he'd come in and he would put his hands around his mother and he'd be all grommery for her. You know, he was that kind of a person, you know.
He's a great source of pride to me, and as I say, I'm passing it on to the young lads now as well. That I'm sure my three lads would possibly tell you even more about Gege than I could, because they've read up on him, and now obviously with the websites and Google and whatnot, they're Googling him on a constant basis.
In 1940, Dan Spring became the first Kerrans O'Reilly's man to captain Kerry to All-Ireland glory when Galway were defeated in the All-Ireland final 7 points to 1-3. Dan Spring played with Kerry from 1934 until 1940. Dick receiving the cup on the Horgan stands of Croke Park. Great thing for your dad and for the whole family looking back through the decades.
This was one of those moments that was to be treasured. And the reality is, I suppose, as others have proven down through the years, when you go up those steps and claim that cup, you become part of the legend. And that's what the legend is, whether it's in football or in hurling.
That year, 1940, it was a long campaign, Dick.
It was.
A good few matches, isn't it?
It was, and they fought, you know, I suppose on the other hand, you don't win All Ireland's easy, you know, in reality. Just like the victory of this year itself, you know, many struggles, and Sligo probably will regret it for the rest of their life they couldn't score a penalty.
He was a high scorer. He scored 3 goals and 8 points in that campaign.
He had a great campaign that year, and they wore the Dingle colours in the final. And he must have been a bit upset with Paddy Bond coming on to replace him, because I think there was a bit of frisson or a bit of a needle between them ever afterwards. And but he did well, and he scored 2-3, which was a good score.
The day that your dad, Captain Kerry, it was a terrible bad day. There was some story about a duck. What
there was. Apparently, it was the downpour, but the Kerry mascot that time was a duck, apart from the individual that was out in the team, young Harry McCarthy, son of the famous Jack McCarthy, this long-time secretary of the Munster Council. He was the mascot on the day in the photograph of the 1940 team, but there was a duck wandering around the pitch apparently, and people were saying that it was more suitable for the duck than it was for football that day.
He was injured during the course of the game. Did he ever speak about that injury? What happened?
He didn't, actually. The only football collision he ever described to us in any detail was the time they were playing Meath the previous year, and Meath had a fullback famously known as the Boiler McGuinness, who, and I checked out his stats, he was 15 stone 10 and 29 years of age at the time, McGuinness, with a huge reputation. And apparently on one occasion when it looked like my father might be going through for a goal, the Boiler decided to stop him, and it was a knees in the chest, and he afterwards found out he had 2 cracked ribs. My father worked on the building sites, and he worked with the merchants, as he used to call the merchants in Tralee at the time, Latchfords, McCowans, Kelleher's, Donovan's mills. And he came up the hard way, and he was one of 14 children. And he used to tell stories that when they got married they first lived in a flat, if there were flats in those days, or apartments over the Union office in Rock Street, which is now the post office in Rock Street. And then they moved up to Strand Road here, where they rented the house. They rented it for about £1 a week, and they rented it for about 30 or 40 years. So we eventually said, do you not think you should buy this house? And so they bought it for about £1,000 at the time, which was a lot of money in the 60s. But my father's friends used to all be going to work in Denny's or in the CWS bacon factory for 8 o'clock in the morning, and he used to stand at the door about 7:45 saying hello to all his friends going down to work, letting them know that he was up as well, early.
Your dad would be well known for his political life, and he stood in 13 general elections.
That's right. We actually left the house in Strand Road to go over to the Union Hall in 1979 for the local election selection convention. My mother and himself and myself got into the car, and between Strand Road and the Rock, we actually suggested that maybe he shouldn't stand in the election, that I'd stand instead. Yeah. And we'll ask the party to agree that on the night. Response? Yeah, I suppose it's time. You know, my father was a very unassuming, modest man in many ways, and you know, he said, we'll get on with it and see what. And there was fellas crying inside in the hall that night.
Looking back now, Dick, at your father's day of glory in 1940, was it one of his favourite memories in sport and maybe in his life?
I would say yes. It certainly was, and I was very proud to have played with O'Reilly's indeed, and to be the first captain to bring the trophy to this side of town, because as you know well, Weeshie Tralee in those days was divided into 3 very strong parishes.
What does it mean to be a winning Kerry captain in today's world?
That was going through my mind actually when I was watching Dara O'Sullivan this year. You know, now here's a young man, and a fine young man. I don't know him personally, but he certainly comes across as a very solid young man, and he had a great season. That if you use it wisely, and if you're sensible about the accolade that's been, I suppose, that you've earned, because you don't get these things, don't come lightly. It does give you great career prospects, and I think it's a passport for better things in life.
Bill Dillon, Captain Kerry to All Ireland victory 1941. Liam, you must be very proud of that man.
Immensely proud of Bill always, or Billamite as he was known in Dingle. And he never married, and only 2 of his siblings married and had families. So the Jack Dillon's family in Dingle and my mother's family in Dingle. So we were his children really. Like.
What has he meant to you personally now in your life?
He's meant a huge amount to me, Weeshie, all through my life, right through my childhood years, and you know, he taught me a lot, and he stood for a lot, and I hope I learned a lot from him, and I look back on him with great fondness. You know, he used to take all of us out with the dogs, in when I was a little boy,
My uncle was Bill Dillon. He captained Kerry when they won the All-Ireland. That must be a wonderful thing to bring around through your life, Liam.
It is, Weeshie, and I taught in Dublin for many years and brought school kids on tours to Croke Park and to point out to them W. Dillon on the Sam Maguire gave me a great thrill always.
Now, tell us, he's Dingle born, the town of Dingle. Tell us exactly where he was born, because he had to leave the house he was born in, is that right?
That's right. Weeshie, the house he was born in was a house that his grandfather had got from I think he was renting it from Lord Ventry. He was an ex-British Navy man, and it is what you describe as a boathouse down at the water's edge just across from the pier, and the lower level of the house used to fill with water at high tide.
The reason why he captained Kerry in 41 was because he was a member of the great Dingle team that won the 3 in a row and won 6 county titles. He was automatically captained in 1941. That Dingle team, Liam, did he talk about them? Because to win 6 county championships, they were star-studded, weren't they? And he was one of the stars.
He talked about that team more than he talked about playing with Kerry. He was Dingle first. And Kerry then, really, he was immensely proud of his Dingle heritage and playing with the guys he grew up with. And there was just a golden era there. There was, I don't know, was it a brother Smith or a brother White who was credited with getting the football going in the CBS in Dingle. And sure, there was a clutch of them came along around that time, and I think around 41 or 42 a Dingle selection played Dublin somewhere up the country, I think in Croke Park. I only heard about it recently, and they beat Dublin.
Talking about Dublin, of course, in 1941, when Bill captained went to victory, they drew with Dublin, and then the replay was played in Tralee. That was a huge thrill for him to captain his own county in All-Ireland semi-final in Tralee.
It would have been. It would have been indeed. Weeshie, of course, it was during the war, and I suppose the GA gave Kerry fans a bit of consideration back then. They don't seem to give it to them now, and they brought Dublin down to Tralee and Kerry beat them. So he spoke about that particular occasion quite a lot indeed.
And of course, they beat Galway then in the All-Ireland final, and he's a great friend, and his Dingle teammate Gaga scored the all-important goal. So it was really a great day for Dingle. Did he speak about that? He did?
Oh, he did, yeah. And on that occasion as well, his future brother-in-law was a sub with Galway. My own father, John O'Connell, he was in the army in Galway at the time, and it would have been interesting had a Dingle man ended up marking a Dingle man in the final, because my father was a wing forward, so it never came to pass. But we were told great stories about 1941 and Bill being captain. Yeah.
The great Kerry trainer, Dr. Eamon O'Sullivan, actually said one time the only player he ever sent home because he was too fit was Bill Dillon.
That's right. Every spare hour he had, he was out with the dogs, and he would cover miles, particularly of a early Sunday morning until darkness fell. He was out covering miles, the mountains around Dingle and West Kerry. And on one occasion, one of the Tralee teams were coming back to play Dingle in a county championship match, and they saw him scampering over the mountains a few miles from Dingle, and they said, well, they won't have Dillon anyway today. We'll have some chance, because I mean Dingle at the time had 6 or 7 fellas on the county team. And he appeared just in time for the start of the match, and he played in his bare feet for about 10 minutes while somebody was dispatched down to the house to get his boots.
Some Dingle man told me lately, when I was explaining to him I was going to be talking to Liam O'Connell, Bill Dillon's never, he said, don't forget to ask him about the mate inside in the Sam Maguire Cup. What was all that about?
Well, I suppose in the days before fridges and all that, to keep things as fresh as possible, the Sam Maguire was kept in what was called the front room upstairs, and with no central heating or anything in the house. Putting it into the cold metal of the cup was one place where the meat could be kept well for a couple of days anyway. Weeshie, yeah.
You have your 2 sons with you. They'd be grandsons of Bill's. Tell us who they are, and are they very proud of their grandfather?
They'd be grandnephews, John and Matthew, yeah, and they do enjoy the stories all right, and they are proud of their heritage, I suppose. It was a terrible shock that he died so young, but the person he was, he wouldn't have enjoyed old age, you know, so maybe maybe that was the right way for him to go, you know.
Where is he buried?
Buried in Dingle, overlooking the harbour, his favourite place on earth.
...1946 was a very special year in the history of Kerry football. It was a year where we had 3 captains. Eddie Dowling captained Kerry in the early rounds of the championship. Gus Crimmin captained Kerry in the drawn All-Ireland final against Roscommon. And Paddy Kennedy took over as captain for the winning All-Ireland final against Roscommon that year. Now we are on our way to North Kerry to visit the great Gus Crimmin. Gus, it's great to talk to you. You're in great form for an old man. Aren't you?
I am, Weeshie. I feel good.
You do.
Only that I'm stiff.
Yeah. You never drank or smoked in your life?
I never drank or smoked.
You reckon that stands to a fella?
Pardon?
You reckon that stands to a fella?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like in the drawn game, leading all those great Kerry legends around Croke Park? What did it mean to the men from Ballydonohoe?
It was great to see Joe Cahan behind me.
Yeah.
And a gentleman.
Yeah.
The Sullivans. Gerald and Teddy.
Yeah.
I think they're both dead.
Yeah, they're both dead now, they are indeed, yeah.
And
the Lions.
Jackie and
Denny.
Jackie was a great footballer.
Was he? Was he?
Great footballer.
The drawn game, Gus, is a memorable game because you were 2 goals down, weren't you, with the time nearly up?
Paddy Buck was full forward.
Yes.
And he got the first goal.
Yeah.
And I think it was Gaga got the second.
Spot on, it was, yeah. It was, yeah. And the game was a draw.
And the game was a draw.
Yeah. Unfortunately then, for the replay, things didn't turn out too good for yourself. Talk to us, what happened that particular time?
I tell you the truth, Weeshie. I think it was Dr. Raymond put me off the team.
Right.
He didn't want me on the team. And I make out that only for Joe Barrett, we wouldn't have won that All-Ireland. Because Joe Barrett insisted that I'd be on the team. He made a show because I wasn't on it. And at least 6 times he had me shoved into the field before I was eventually put on.
Yes.
And I got the winning point.
Gus, I know it's a long time ago now, but do you remember the build-up to the point?
I could see Gaga beckoned me to give it to him, and I could see the goals widening. And I studied myself. And for just a split second, John Joshua, he said, when he saw me studying himself, he closed his eyes. He couldn't believe it, to kick it from where it was. And I fell over the
Excitement runs high as the crowd surges on the field.
You didn't go up to receive the cup with Paddy Kennedy?
I was taken shoulder high around the field.
Right.
And I didn't see the cup being presented at all.
Right. Were you disappointed, Gus, after not receiving the cup?
I came home before the team.
Did you stay Sunday night at all?
No.
The winning captain in 1946 was the legendary great Paddy Kennedy. We visited Dublin to speak to his family and find out the secret of Paddy Kennedy.
I never saw my father playing, but if I had a euro for every time I was told he was the greatest of all time, I'd be a millionaire. But he was the most humble man I ever met. He never said he was any good. He used to say that they'd have forgotten about me long ago, only for people comparing me with Mick O'Connell. He says, sure, I'd have been forgotten. But the people who played with him wouldn't hear anyone say anything except that he was as good as there was, you know.
He had great style, there's no doubt about it. In his day, he had great style, and he used to catch the ball in the same fashion as Mick O'Connell, out in front of him. Which was a good way, because the ball wouldn't be broken by fellas coming from behind.
You caught the ball, your hands as big as you could, caught it, brought it into your chest and round the shoulders, and you landed with the knees always bent down into the ground.
Yeah.
But it was the timing of catching the ball, so that you would catch it at its height. As somebody beside you that was taller, you would actually be able to take it and go with it before it reached their hands.
Yeah. Talk to me about some of the games now that stand out in your memory that you can recall Paddy playing, in particular the All-Ireland finals, of course.
Well, of course, the 46 All-Ireland.
Yeah.
And I saw him in every odd match.
Yeah. And explain to us exactly what type of a footballer was Paddy Kennedy. What had he? What distinguished him?
Well, he was stylish, and he was a good fielder.
Football would be in your blood.
Yeah, well, I played Kerry minor in 36.
Did you? Who were your teammates that day?
Joe Cahan and all. Oh, Joe Cahan and Giga.
Yeah.
Best minor team ever left Kerry.
Was it? Yeah.
And we were beaten in the final by Lowell.
Yeah.
Cahan left in 3 goals.
Yeah.
He got the works.
People don't realise, in those days you didn't think of getting married until your football career was finished, because football was more important. And if you look back over the records, there was nobody married. Like, they had to play the football first.
Well, he had just finished playing football when I met him. I met him shortly after they came back from the polo ground. My aunt had a shop, and I used to go in on my way home from work and buy cigarettes for my mother, and he was perched there in the corner talking to the girls.
He won 5 senior All-Ireland medals, and he won 1 minor All-Ireland medal.
He did.
And you have them all. You might just talk to us about why did you decide to make a bracelet out of them?
When I met Paddy, he had all his medals in a very old player's cigarette box. When I suggested doing something with this, he sort of thought it was okay. So then when it was made, Jim Byrne made it, Byrne's Jewellers made it, and I think he made it very well. He didn't interfere with any of the medals in any way.
What the grandchildren call that is the Kerry bling.
Yeah.
But I have the medal there. It's a humble enough medal, but the inscription on the back says it, GAA World Champions New York 1939, won by Kerry, presented by John Jemison. There was 15 given out to the winning Kerry team in 39.
Yeah.
It's the only one that had world champions on them, because Kerry people, as they say, aren't backward about coming forward.
Yes, yeah. And you were a born and bred Dub?
Thank you.
Yeah.
During the few times that Kerry played Dublin, I had different people that used to stay with us on and off, and I had grapes brought to me one time after a match. Kerry had won and Dublin had lost.
Yeah.
Grapes.
On the day of his funeral, before he was brought out here to be buried, Mick O'Connell approached you.
The funeral was at 11 o'clock in Pius X church down the road here. And Mick O'Connell had got up at 5 o'clock in the morning down in Valencia, drove up. He came up the side of the church, just walked up to me, caught my hand, shook my hand and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know him better. I went back down to Valencia." That's all he did. He was as proud of being from Kerry. I mean, as I say, he's buried here, but his heart was always in Kerry, and I would say, if he was still around, he'd be so proud of everything that ever came out of Kerry,
God rest you, Paddy Kennedy, your award you've surely won. When duty called, you gave your all, both off the field and on. You'll always rate among the greats, your deeds will be retold, especially when good Kerrymen line out in green and gold.
25,000 people crowd New York's Polo Grounds, bands playing and thousands of enthusiastic Irish Americans and Americans to greet the Cavan and Kerry teams as they walk onto the field. An early arrival was #1 citizen of New York, Mayor Bill O'Dwyer, who was received in his box by Mr. Dan O'Rourke, president of the GAA. The New York police band, the swirl of the kilts and the parade, they were something new to most people present. And following these star musicians, two fine bodies of men, cognizant of the fact that they were making history.
Mick, it was a historic final, wasn't it? And even for you now, looking back through all those years, it must have been wonderful to be part of it.
I'm knocking great mileage out of it anyway, because everywhere I go, I'm mentioned as the fellow that played there. But it was unique, and of course it would never happen again, or will never happen again. By right, would never have happened again on a small bit of subterfuge that was worked in Dublin at the meeting that they had as to whether they would hold the All-Ireland in America at all. Someone produced a letter from an immigrant who had been in America, and the letter was so well written, and he described how he never saw a Gaelic football match since he went to America, and mentioned the famine, and it was the centenary of the famine, you see. And that letter swung the delegates to vote in favour of their going over. But that letter was never written. That letter was written above in Croke Park. It wasn't written from, but that doesn't matter. We got our trip out of it. We met the plane below in Rhinan, as they call it in them days.
Shannon.
They were after opening Shannon that year on day. And we were only out there over Kerry Head, like when the captain comes on, he says, we have to take a bit of a detour down to the Azores. Couple of 1,000 miles to the left here, out there off the coast of Africa, you know. So it was dark by the time we landed down there, and it was the first time we saw a town lit up by electricity, because we had no electricity here before we left, you know. We let the old plane cool down anyway, and we hit off for Gander, Newfoundland. Jeez, the old plane started vibrating like. The luggage was falling down on top of our heads and everything from overhead like this. And we still were not a bit afraid of it, because we were so green and so naive. We said that we didn't know like the possibilities that if we came down, like, you know. Anyway, he says we'll have to shut down. He says #1 engine, and I'm afraid we'll be an hour late coming into Gander. No one said anything. We were going away anyway, and the next thing she started shuddering again, and the captain comes on. He says, I'm sorry, he says, #4 engine is giving trouble, and we'll have to shut it down, and we'll be 2 hours late coming into Gander. Oh Jesus, says one of the Kerry lads, if any more of them bloody engines will break down, he says, we'll be up here all night. Anyway, we got to New York, and there was a mighty crowd there, you see. We had outriders, motorbikes at the side, and the police cars in front, and there was people stopped to sail on the side, and like there we were thrown into New York, you know, where we were looking up at the buildings, and we fit to fall back in the flat of our back, you know, because our mouths open. We never saw the likes of it, and we were kind of overcome, and we were in awe of the whole thing.
Mayor O'Dwyer throws in the ball, and the game is on.
The game started off at a very fast pace, because it was the field was so hard, even the ball would hop off the field and it would go about 20 feet into the air, you see. The theory I have is that with the controversy they had about trying to get the game across there, that they meant to make a draw out of the game in the Polo Grounds so as to play it again in Croke Park. But I think that is why O'Neill disallowed the 2 first goals, because Kerry seemed to be running away with the game.
Paddy catches a nice one. He sends it across the goal mouth. Garvey is in position, but as he crashes to the net, the whistle goes to give him a free, which is sent over by Mick O'Connell for the first score of the game.
I came on at half time because somebody stuck a finger in Eddie Welch's eye, strange enough, and his eye was closed, and he had only one eye.
Cavan are jubilant now, but more is to come. And as Higgins works his way through into a position for another goal, the Sergeant Cavan takes the lead.
There was such a unique occasion, and the fact that it happened at all. Like, it was such a big thing that whether we won or lost, it was a big thing for Kerry and Cavan football.
4 points divided the sides now. Cavan 2-11, Kerry 2-7. The Kingdom fought back, and in a welter of excitement they crowded round the Cavan goal. O'Keefe got the ball. He sent it back to Teddy Sullivan, who took a shot, but it hit the crossbar, for it was only a matter of seconds until referee Martin O'Neill blew his final whistle. And so ended the All-Ireland final of 1947. Cavan the champion. And with Cavan glorious and happy in victory, and Kerry brilliant in defeat, the greatest chapter in Irish sporting history came to an end.
When both teams arrived home from New York, they were treated to a royal welcome. Thousands lined both sides of O'Connell Street as the teams were paraded through the city. It's certainly an occasion that remained forever etched in their memories.
Ireland has seen many great days in the world of sport, but none can outshine All-Ireland Football Final Sunday 1953, when the largest crowd ever to witness an Irish sports event, some 90,000 people are here. And even the spacious and ever-improving Croke Park seems to burst at the seams. The senior teams are on the field. Kerry, some of them anxious that everybody gets into the picture, and here's Tom Ash to take his place. Armagh, keen and anxious to justify the great faith of their followers. Referee Peter McDermott chats with linesman Des Ferguson and Norman Allen, and gradually the traditional and spectacular pattern takes shape. The parade, the Artane Boys Band, the masked pipers, the cheering, flag-waving crowds, and the teams themselves, Armagh and Kerry.
Well, 55 years later, we are here to talk to Jazz Murphy, the Cairns O'Reilly's man, who captained Kerry that momentous day. Jazz, you were born, of course, in the town of Tralee.
I was born in Tralee, in Bridge Street, Tralee. I was an only son. I had a brother, two of us to the family, and he died when he was young, at 13, of meningitis, and that left me alone, you know.
You used to play games between the streets?
We used, yeah, and we played all our games down there in the council field now, opposite the Brandon Hotel.
Of course, Cairns O'Reilly's then was your club?
That was my club, yes. I only played one championship match with Cairns O'Reilly's because I went away young and joined the Guards, do you know.
53 then, Jazz. Paddy Sheehy was the captain of the team.
He was.
Because John Mitchells had won the county championship.
That's right.
And they sat down to pick the team for the final.
Yes.
And when it came to Paddy's position in the team, his father, John Joe Sheehy, was a selector.
He was.
Now, tell us what happened.
John Joe decided that he would stay in the room when the team was being picked, you see, you know. So Paddy wasn't playing that well up to then, like, you know, so when the team was picked, Paddy was omitted from the 15, starting 15, you see. Yeah. It came then to the captain. I was a silent man, I said nothing. I was happy to be playing on the team, you know, and all that. And we were one morning coming down Killarney, one of the streets in Killarney, one of the lads said, "Jess, you're captain, you know, for the All-Ireland final." And I said, "How could I be captain?" I said, you know. So it was true what came out that I was, the night before, that I was made captain, you know.
The Mitchells Club nominated you, Jess?
The Mitchells Club nominated me.
Because Paddy had been dropped?
Paddy had been dropped, yes.
So what did it feel like to be told you were captain in Kerry?
Well, it was marvellous, I think, really, you know, but it was so big at the time, I didn't realise it, you know, really, but it was a big thing.
Did you find it upset you a bit?
Maybe a bit, no, I'd say. Maybe a bit in the old play, I'd say, you know, like.
Did you travel up then on the Saturday?
Yeah, I went up by train around 1 or whatever, you know, and landed above in Kingsbridge, and we got a bus in. We didn't know where we were going, but we landed out to Malahide, the Grand Hotel in Malahide. I had Missy Palmer and Sean Murphy in my room. Oh, for God's sake, let me alone.
Why?
Palmer was an awful blackguard, you know. He was a terror, and he couldn't have Sean Murphy on. So I think we had mass in the hotel, you know, like the Kerry Price was mass was the hotel, and had our breakfast, and we walked down the Sandhills before we boarded the bus for Crow Park.
There was a record attendance at that point. There was over 80,000 people, so you were passing all these
It couldn't be recorded because they broke down gates and everything that time going in. That was the biggest crowd ever in Crow Park. The sideline was inside in the field, we'll say, you know, and they sat down like quiet, and there wasn't a murmur after that.
There's a beautiful photograph of you here in front of you now. You're sitting down and you're kissing the ring of Bishop Moynihan.
I went out as captain to meet him, and as the photo shows, I knelt down to kiss his ring, you see, you know.
Yeah. Did he say anything to you?
Well, he didn't. I don't think he did, you know. Maybe he said good luck now, something like that.
Our man missed the penalty. It was in the second half, I think.
It was in the second half.
What are your memories of the incident leading up to it?
Well, you know, I really said, is this it now, you know?
Johnny Foley stops one close in, and referee McDermott orders a penalty. Bill McCurry sends it wide, and with newfound relief, Kerryman Eddie Roach prepares to kick out the ball.
Kerry went on to win the game.
And when the cup was handed to you then, what was that like?
Oh, tears of me alone tonight. Trying to get it was another thing.
It's Kerry's big day, as Vincent Donoghue presents the magnificent Sam Maguire Cup to the Kerry captain Jas Murphy. And with another crown for the kingdom, the curtain falls on a great day, everybody connected with which has a right to be proud.
Talk to us about the following day.
Oh, indeed I will, Listen. We went down to the Shakespeare bar, a few of us, having a few drinks, Paddy Barno and John Cronin and a few of us like that, you know. And then I missed the bloody train. We were late. We were scamping, of course, and but luckily enough we got another train following not too long afterwards.
Amazingly then, Jas, that was 1953.
Yeah.
You were to play only one more game. Correct me now if I'm wrong. I won more games for Kerry.
That's all.
This is an amazing story. What happened?
I don't know. Truthfully, I don't know.
The following year was 1954.
54.
Yeah.
I played the first round against Waterford, and my name never appeared in the panel after that. How, I don't know. I went away, got married, but my name, and I was back and all before the Munster final. In good form, I tell you.
I would imagine, Jas, that was very hurtful.
That took a lot out of me.
At least somebody could have contacted you and said, this is why, or this is not why.
Nobody ever contacted me afterwards, and it hurted my mother and father, and it hurted me, it hurted my wife, very much so.
What age you then, Jas, roughly?
I was 30 or 31, something like that, you know. I was a fit man, because I wasn't drinking at all. I was a TT and all that, you know. But I will never forget that, you know, really. And I still have it in me. I still have that in me, you know.
What does this mean to you now to have been captain of Kerry, and what does it mean today to you?
Today, it means so much today now to me.
You meet a lot of people.
I do, and they say Jas Murphy, captain of the Kerry team, you know, and they hold me the same now today as they did then.
The 1955 victory by Kerry over Dublin is regarded by many as one of the greatest victories Kerry have ever had. John Dowling was the captain of the Kerry team that day back in 1955. It was a superb Kerry team, and right half back that day for Kerry was one of the legends of Kerry football. Dr. Sean Murphy was a great friend of John Dowling's, and he has great memories of the great captain.
John Dowling was a quintessential Kerry captain and footballer. Powerful, robust, and to use a well-known cliche, there was only one way John Dowling took, and that was Route 1 towards the goal.
He was a man, Sean, that had tremendous drive both on the field and off the field. He was a great personality, wasn't he?
He was a marvellous personality. He was exuberant.
He was scintillating as company. You could hear the roars of laughter coming from wherever John Dowling was being interviewed or having a conversation. He was that type of character, a big man on the field, a big man off the field.
I'm the image of him, and that's very unfortunate because they don't ask me, am I John Dowling's daughter? They say, you're the image of him.
Well, I suppose we were 8 or 9 before we knew, that Dad was a captain. He spoke very little of his own achievements.
People loved him for loving the game so much. It was just, they never used to speak about anything, just the football, and I suppose they just couldn't believe that he would be 7 days a week only talking about it.
He was a leader. He could influence a whole team. His exuberance radiated from him, and the team followed, and that is the classical team captain. The team follows the captain, the leader.
I've heard lots of stories down through the years of young fellas coming in here to buy their first pair of football boots, and they wanted to buy them from John Dowling.
Yeah.
But I've heard also stories of young fellas coming in and he giving them a pair of football boots.
That's right. Well, if he thought anyone would join the Rahleys, they'd nearly get more than a pair of football boots. He was very good to the Rahleys. If he thought he spotted one for another team, it would be the biggest mission to get that guy to play with Rahleys if he came to town, and no matter what it took, he had them in here with the boots on.
Like the boots and John Dowling's were golden boots. The Kerry jersey was a golden Kerry jersey. It wasn't just a jersey. Like people still from all over felt there was something special getting the jersey here.
Dr. Eamon O'Sullivan brought you together for collective training in Killarney.
We were taken to the Park Hotel, which is O'Donoghue's hotel. Mrs. O'Donoghue and her family, she gave us such care and attention. Dr. Eamon, he had that all-encompassing view of how a team should train. There was the psychological aspect, the physical aspect, food, rest, discipline.
Would John Dowling have any input into anything then from when she left Killarney, Sean, as captain?
He would. John Dowling, he kept a team spirit going. He chatted to people. You could see his exuberance breaking through.
What about the following morning then?
Up for Mass. That was the big thing. He paraded us to Mass in Portmarnock, Then we went back and had breakfast. Then we togged out for a team photograph.
In the dressing room before you ran out then, Sean, what was the tension like and who spoke?
The tension was electric. I think John Joe Sheehy was about the only person who spoke. There was no pep talk by Eamon. There was no pep talk by John Dowling either. If you look at the Kerry teams going on the field then, they just ambled onto the pitch. The other teams ran on with 2 or 3 footballs and whatnot. We didn't.
Can you remember the cup being actually presented to John Dowling? Have you any vivid memories of that?
I have. I can see John Dowling holding that cup. Yes, I do. I can see him do that.
He got back to the dressing room then, he told me, and he didn't have the cup because the supporters had torn the cup out of his hands and the cup was missing for a while.
That happened. The same thing happened in 1953 with Jas Murphy. When it was time to get to the train, somebody said, "Where's the cup?" And suddenly all hell broke loose. They couldn't find the cup. And I think John Dowling had a similar experience in 55, that he couldn't find that cup for a while. But that always happened. The cup seemed to be spirited away by supporters. And I presume that it appeared in a few dance halls as well.
The homecoming, even today, all Kerry players say, I only want to get on the train and get back to the bonfires in the kingdom.
The homecoming was spectacular. It really started in Mallow, and Dr. Eamon had arranged, again with foresight, that a different member of the team would get out the platform, say a few words of thanks for the reception, and get on back in and get on to the next.
How was John Dowling, the captain, reacting to all of this, Sean?
He was thrilled, but John Dowling, he was never a man to make speeches, or he always took a back seat in that line. He said a few words in Tralee, but I would say just a few words. He was never a man given to speeches and orations.
He let his football do the talk.
He did.
Your dad captain in Kerry in 1955. What does it mean to you?
I suppose the privilege of not alone making the Kerry team and then to captain the Kerry team would be probably the be all and end all, really. Did he ever think that he'd have the cup in the window in 1955? It was absolutely tremendous.
He was just very blessed to be captain of the team, but it was such a great honour for him, and we were honoured then to be part of that.
And of course they say the apple never falls far from the tree, because your young lad Barry John, he's an outstanding young footballer. Your dad would be very proud of him.
He would be very proud of him, especially making the Kerry minors this year, but he has a lot of more work to do, but he'll get there.
You won your three finals in the 50s. It was a glorious era. It was a golden era for Kerry football, 53, 55 and in 59. What's your memories of 59, and what does it mean to be remembered as the man who the 1959 finals called after? Because it's very unique.
One of the comments that was passed to me was by John Kerry O'Donnell one day. We were in company and I arrived and joined the company. So John Kerry said, he made great mileage out of 1 hour in Croke Park.
And so at the whistle, Kerry have won their 18th All-Ireland title with the score 12 points to Dublin's 1 goal and 6 points.
Now, you've been watching the Kerry captains from 1903 until 1955. But now, we're going to travel to Valentia Island, right over there, to meet the legend himself, Mick O'Connell, and talk to him about his day in 1959 when he captained Kerry to victory over Galway in Croke Park. What was it like for a young Mick O'Connell growing up in Valentia, and what was the background to your family, Mick?
Oh, background football-wise was zero. My father was a fisherman and ships pilot here, came from Begneside and across the way, and we had a farm of land near the house at home, but my father would go to local games and things like that and bought footballs for us, but playing with the local lads and watching the local teams, that's what got me interested. That's how it evolved. I played a few games and then underage, very few, and as I said, until I came on the South Kerry team in 1955.
Your first time wearing the green and gold, Mick, was at minor level, is that correct? What are your memories of playing Kerry minor?
Minor, yeah. It was in 1955. I went up to Tralee for a trial match, and one man recommended to John Joshi. He was senior select at the time for me, and that's how he got my place. Seamus Moynihan, Gary McMahon, God rest them, both of them played with me in that team.
Was your ambition then, Mick, to go on and play with Kerry and play in Croke Park or play in an All-Ireland final?
It wasn't really, because I went down to Cork one time for a year that time to go to the college in Cork, and Ty Crowley, the secretary, phoned me up one day, said Kerry were playing a challenge match down in the old Cork Athletic Grounds. I played and fielded some good balls, and after that I was recognised, and I never lost my place in the Kerry team after that. It was just again by accident. If Ty Crowley hadn't phoned me that day, maybe I had made some bit of an impact in the county championship before that, but that was about it.
When did you make your championship debut in, Mick, senior?
Oh, in Gilstipperary in Keliher in 1956. After that I kept playing until I took a break in 66, 67. I was in England for a while.
Mick O'Connell's got it, and Mick now 40 yards out, now 30, he takes his shot, and he has sent it over the bar. Mick O'Connell, who has really come into the game in the second half with the elegance of a great footballer.
Were you playing against Waterford when Waterford beat you?
I was playing that year, 57. I started in 56, but Ned Fitzgerald was nominated captain in 57. And he was down in Waterford, and Waterford beat him. And again, I wasn't surprised. As Kerry, the slipshod preparations again. They assumed that Kerry would walk over Waterford, and that doesn't happen with deprivation. Interesting, I think it was kind of a dance band that led us around the field that day. Yeah. I think Ned often reckoned it was the dance band that led us astray.
Well, I can say I recall before the game we were played around the field by a dance band, and I think Mick O'Connell and others thought that the band wasn't up to scratch.
Mick O'Connell actually said one day that maybe the band led you astray.
Maybe so. The actual match itself, I think we were leading until the last couple of minutes of the game. I think there was a goal scored which left us 1 point in arrears. We had no time for recovery, and that was it. I think Paddy Sheehy, God rest him, got one chance, but the ball went skin wide.
His son Morris made the grade after, and I would say about Morris, I'd say Morris must have been the best kicker that was there in the history of the game. He could kick left and right, off the hands and off the ground, with equal facility. I don't see any other player in the history of the game has been able to do that.
This is about 14 metres out, very acute angle. Looking for Kerry's 4th point at his own 2nd. He's measured it well and he's put it over the bar. That's a brilliant kick by a brilliant footballer.
Mick, 1959, when Kerry won their 19 All-Ireland title, you were captain that day. What did captaincy mean to you that particular day?
Well, I suppose going back to earlier that year, South Kerry had won the county championship, 1958 county championship, and I was from Village Island, who were champions of South Kerry at the time. So there was no talk about captaincy beforehand until the first round of the Munster Championship in Keliher that year. Kerry were playing Tipperary. No mention in the dressing room beforehand who's captain today. Out in the field, Jerome O'Shea said to me, "Mick, you're taking the toss today." I says, "I don't need it. I don't want it." So I said, "Oh, somebody." So to get the game going, I went over to the free, and that was the initiation into the captaincy. And thereafter, I captained for that full year, 1959.
And looking back now, Mick, through the mists of time, all those years ago, when you went up to Horgan stand to receive the cup, does it mean a lot now that you did have that opportunity of doing that?
Well, I suppose the fact that it is a memory, all right, but at the time, it's very minor apart from playing the game to me, because in those times there wasn't much made of it, as I said to you there at the outset.
It's part of GA folklore now, Mick, that when you did get the cup and you had landed back to Village Island and you didn't bring the cup back with you.
Well, all matches I ever played in, I was back in my job the following morning, whether it was playing with Valencia, South Kerry or any other team, and that was no different that time. I came home on the train that night, pushed on my punt. I came across here in the ferry, but my knee was giving me trouble. In fact, I was laid up for a few days in bed afterwards with it. But there was a lot of talk about leaving the cup after you then. There was plenty of people. In fact, dressing rooms down through the years were always filled with people to handle the cup, and it was not important to me. Now, even after that, I know it was outside in a garage in Waterford under tires for several months. There was no hawking of the cup around in those days. It was celebration enough for me to play a game and come home.
You'll be recognised and remembered as one of the great fielders of Gaelic football. And did you practice your fielding deliberately, Mick? And what did fielding the ball mean to you, and how did you perfect it?
Yeah, I don't know about perfecting it, but it was the aspect of the game that gave me the greatest thrill, to get up there and catch a ball. It was a challenge against oneself.
I know there's some great photographs of you kicking the ball off the gable in wall of your house.
Well, that was only often when I was stuck. A lot of people think that was good practice. It was okay as a standby to get your eye in, but the ball comes back too dead.
Talk to us about you coming and going after matches and going to all islands, and you rowing yourself across.
I was probably the only Irish player from all over Ireland who left an island to play Gaelic county football. I would go across and pull up my punt at the point and go to Dublin to the match. When the match was over, have the grub in Dublin, come back down, get the boat across again, and be at home late that night. Could be 3 or 4 in the morning. While the Dublin players were inside in their bed since midnight, I'd be still coming across in the ferry. So be it, but I wouldn't wish it any other way.
Take that photograph, Mick, there, and talk to us about it.
Somebody gave that a few years ago there to me. It was way back in the 60s. I was after going across in the boat, a very wet evening. You could see I had a course bag with my football gear here in the left hand. I was after leaving the punt and going up to go in a car, go practicing or playing a match, I think. I wonder would I do it now, knowing that life is much more comfortable nowadays.
Was the graw for the island always with you when you were away?
Oh sure, my roots are here. I've started my life here, and I presume, please God, that I'll end my time here as well, and that my family will continue on the legacy here.
I thought always
that Kerry was a compact, unified kingdom until the year 1959, and where I learned that there was another side of the story on a visit to Detroit. And on my first evening there, I was cornered by a group of men whom I very soon recognized to be Kerry men, and the first question they asked me was, how good really is Mick O'Connell? This was 1959, and I told them my honest opinion of Mick O'Connell. But the next question kind of stunned me. Was he better than Paddy Kennedy? And I had to use all my diplomacy at this because I didn't know where the company I was keeping at that particular time. But I do still remember saying that for style, nothing could ever equal O'Connell. And while for consistency, I doubted if anything would ever equal Paddy Kennedy.
Johnny Cullity was the first Killarney man to bring the Sam Maguire Cup to Beauty's home. Not alone was he a great footballer, but he was also a renowned hurler. Johnny, was 1969 the year you captained Kerry to their 21st All-Ireland? Was that the highlight of your career?
I had such a long career, I'll tell you the truth, it's very hard to pick out highlights, like, you know. I started with the Kerry Minor Hurlers in 1951, and I finished up in 1971. I started with the Kerry Footballers Minor and Junior in 1954, and I finished up in 1971 in the Munster final. We were beaten that day above in Cork.
How did the captaincy come about, by the way?
East Kerry won the county championship 68, like, you know. So they had a captaincy, then they had the selection of the captaincy in East Kerry. So they hadn't anyone on the team, like, you know. So Cork selected me anyway. When they hadn't a man of their own, they nominated me, so that's how I became captain.
Did the fact of you becoming captain had you to be more active off the field or anything, no?
The short answer is no. I was no great driving force that way, I have to say. Like, you know, the captains of our day, Weeshie, we tossed up, and the trainer or the selectors would come along and say, play this way or play that way, like, you know, against the wind or with the wind. That was the big thing, Weeshie. Play against the wind or with the wind, like, you know. And Kerry's maximum those times, and it was always to play against the wind. 1969, Mick O'Connell was kind of doubtful for the final, I suppose, in a way, because he seemed to have muscular problems anyway, like, at the time. And I remember Jackie Lyon and myself, we went down to Valencia anyway on the week before the game, like, you know, to see how he was getting on. He hadn't turned up for training for a while, like, you know, and there was strong rumours that he wouldn't play at all, like, you know.
Yeah.
He was doing some work up in the farm on the same day, like, you know, and he was saying, I hope, he said, I'm very stiff, he said, and just that. And I remember I said to Mick, if you come up, we had this lamp above in the hospital.
There was a big, huge lamp.
Big lamp in the surgery.
In the so-called surgery.
That's right, yeah. I know it was in for red or in for whatever it was, anyway. So he came up anyway later on, he said, Jesus, he said, if I got this earlier, he said, I'd nearly have been all right. He said, Jesus, Mick, I said, you, whatever about anything else, I said, you'll have to play the next day, you won't let me down. So, in fairness to him, he was doubtful up to the Saturday, but he came along the Saturday and started with the team, and as you remember, played very well the same day, and we won the game. Like.
Over the bar for a point for Mick O'Connell, his first score of the game, and that makes the score Kerry 8 points of the 6.
Your save actually won the 1969 All-Ireland for Kerry. So talk to us about, Johnny, what happened, what are your memories?
Just wish you have a photo of it there in some old scrapbook all the time, and I'll tell you the truth. It was only just like the ball came in a high ball. He was a good fielder now. I think there was a touch. I think his father was from Kerry.
Kerry goal, trying to take a room to get a shot, takes the high ball in towards the goal. It's dropped across the goal now. Sean Evans has the ball, a shot, a great save by Johnny Cullity. Johnny under pressure there is fouled, and there's a free out for Kerry. And the old warrior there from Killarney, getting that ball under all kinds of pressure and saving the day for the Kerry men.
Your memories after then and going up receiving the cup and saying a few words?
Weeshie, I'll tell you what I got on. So that's the only time they are dealing as captaincies to have to say something like, you know what I mean, and running around that cup. I tell you, it wouldn't be my you know, I wouldn't fancy it that much. I remember I had a few words written out myself, Weeshie, in case we'd win. I was captain, like, that's the only thing about it, and I stuck that into my sock going out, like, during the game, like, you know, and I had it there. And at half-time, I remember our game looked very bad. I tell you, we were playing very poorly at that, like, you know, and I remember I said, this is a jinx of a job, this few words, like, so I tore it up, threw it away. So our look changed from there, Weeshie.
Kerry are champions! Kerry are the champions!
And you were the first ever Killarney man to bring the Sam Maguire Cup to the town of Killarney.
You know, I always remember, like, you know, that the crowds were massive that time to be out in the street, all right, like, you know, and yeah, it was a great privilege, like, you know, to captain Kerry, all right, there's no doubt about that, like, you know, but I'll tell you, like Mick O'Connell, I was damn glad when it came to the end of it, I'll tell you that.
When you came back as a senior selector, Johnny, you played a huge part. You had Jerkeef with you.
That's right.
And Jack was the trainer and also the selector, of course. And how long were you with him?
We were there, I suppose, for 3 years, yeah.
And in those 3 years, football was very intense in the country. Everything had changed completely from the 50s when you were involved, and it was all training and coaching and just huge media hype and everything.
We were talking about 55 earlier on there now, compare it. Dr. O'Sullivan was a trainer. You'd hardly see the selectors for the whole week, like, you wouldn't be bothered, like, you know what I mean? Well, I won't say they wouldn't be bothered, but they wouldn't have to come to the training sessions, you know what I mean? We had a fella, we had Massour that time, like, you know, with the Kerry team in the 50s. But when I came back in, like, with the Kerry set up, you're there now, they'd have a couple of doctors there. They have a couple of masseurs, and they have a couple of physiotherapists. There's an awful different setup now compared to the old days. But we were very successful. We, as you know, we got to 3 All-Ireland finals. We were 1-2 out of the 3 and beaten by the Northern team again, of course, our bogey always by Tyrone the other year.
And then Jack stepped down after 3 years and you all stepped down with him. He came back again there this year now. And were you tempted to come back with him?
That's really Weeshie, you know, there's just like when I packed up the football, there's a time to pack up, well, I want, you know, you never say pack up anything, but you know, you must stay back a bit. There's time for younger men in a way, like, you know, and he got a good man there now, and Eamon Fitzgerald, like, you know. Then you can't
if the call came again sometime, would you think you would come?
Next call now, Weeshie, I'll get now, be from the men above, maybe.
Donie O'Sullivan captained Kerry to their victory in 1970. Recognised as one of the greatest defenders the game has ever known, Donie to captain Kerry to an All-Ireland final must have been a boyhood ambition, was it?
Well, I suppose certainly in this area you'd never even think of it would ever come about, and I suppose when the time comes it's not that as important as it would look in advance of it. But anyhow, even you have to be lucky. And I suppose you're only representing a group of players, in fact, then a district, your own club team, and in our case, East Kerry. To win the East Kerry Championship in 1969, I think was one of the best memories I had. Because I think for a rural team, the club hadn't been that long formed, and win it playing good football, and then beating Dr. Crokes in the final fairly and squarely. And I mean this is a compliment to Dr. Crokes, because these Crokes were the yardstick and still are.
It must have been something remarkable for you to lead Kerry around Croke Park in the march and have the likes of Mick O'Connell and Mick Doyle and Johnny Cullity and Paul O'Donovan and Liam Higgins and all those great men behind you, Donie.
Great honour, you say, to represent them. And you see, you're the great leaders throughout the field there, which is important. I don't think captain is that important really, because that's only one person. It's a big field. You need the people throughout the field.
meeting Meath in the final then, the build up to it and all that, Donie. Where were you? Were you working? Were you teaching somewhere at the time?
I was down for a good bit, but for the last week, the week before it, I was back in Dublin, in a place on the borders of Meath. The tradition in Meath is so strong, and there were flags and everything all over the place. There was an interesting thing, I don't know whether this is important or anything else like that, but Kerry used to go in the upper dressing room under the Cusick stand, the one as you came in. If you came in the Horgan stand now, this would be on your right, and there was a kind of, I suppose, superstitious about it, that keep going there. We lost an awful lot there and so forth also, but Meath had been there as well for all their games, and they had won, and they wouldn't concede, and Sean O'Sullivan had to call them, the secretary, a kind of a conference call, and tell them they couldn't agree. Ty Crowley and the secretary of Meath, they'd have to toss. He would toss for it, and they'd call. So Ty Crowley lost the toss. No, he won the toss, sorry. Meath won. And Ty said to them then, he says, that's okay, he says, you can have it now. So we went to the other dressing room, the lower one.
Yeah, and it was the first 80-minute final.
It was, yeah.
Was there any special preparations in the line of the training by Jackie Lyne to last the 80 minutes, Donie?
From the beginning of that year, from the championship, there was emphasis on stamina. He was always talking about more rounds of the field, more stamina and so forth. And of course the ball was being kicked. It wasn't the passing, very few passes compared to now anyhow.
The final was remarkable for Dinjo Crowley's goal, of course. What are your memories of the goal?
Actually, we were hoping that he'd take a point. We were up, I think, 3 points, and that would have sealed it, but he kept going. It was a great goal. There's nothing else can be said about it.
Dinjo Crowley, DJ going through with it now. A typical DJ run. He's on the 14-yard line. He takes a shot and that's it. A great goal by Dinjo Crowley. Donie O'Sullivan, who went off injured early in the game, but is still the captain, and he's coming over to take the cup, the Sam Maguire Cup.
Had you a speech prepared, an acceptance speech?
No, for that, because the worst thing is to have a speech prepared and nobody wants it.
Agus anish, Brunham on Cornshaw, Donie O'Sullivan, Captain
There it is, the moment of pride for any footballer.
The homecoming to Keliher, of course, that's always very special, isn't it?
Yeah, it was very special, yeah. It was very, that was special, all right, yeah.
The photograph that we're looking at here now, you're sitting in Croke Park and your two beautiful young sons are sitting on each side of you.
It was the summer of 1990. Owen, the boy there, when I left, he had very, very severe cancer in May, starting in 89, and it's a small miracle anyhow that he's appearing in that photograph. I suppose it still is the most memorable day in Croke Park, because he was saying when he was sick he'd never be back again, or he'd never see games, or what he would say was, my youth will be gone.
To win an All-Ireland final in Croke Park, was that the highlight of your sporting life?
It was, but not. There were many more, so they were all great days. Even the bad days were good. And I often philosophize or make it rationalize as we get older that the defeats are good. If we won everything, nobody could handle us. And when the knocks in life come, and I've experienced that they're good for you.
Mickey O'Sullivan captained Kerry to victory in 1975. He was unique among Kerry captains. He didn't climb the steps of the Horgan stand that day to receive the Sam Maguire Cup. That great honour fell to his Kinmare teammate, Pat Spillane. We visited Kinmare and we spoke to both men about that great day. Mickey, what exactly happened?
Well, I suppose I suppose it was about 20 minutes into the first half, got possession of the ball and saw nothing but the goal, put my head down, wasn't a great team player, didn't bring the rest of the players into it, put my head down and ran into trouble. and I just got sandwiched between a number of the Dublin defenders, and that was it.
What was your next memory?
I suppose waking up or coming around in the Richmond Hospital about 9:30 that night, and that was basically it. When I was coming around, I still thought I was playing, you know, and it took me a while it was a bit of an anticlimax to find myself inside in a hospital bed, you know.
And when were you discharged in, and what happened after that?
Monday afternoon I was discharged, and I went down with the team then on the train, and that was it. I had a bit of a headache still, you know, but I'd say I was kind of anxious to go home with the team, you know.
That year of 1975, Mick, was a momentous year for Kerry football because you beat that great Dublin team in the final. You were the captain because Keliher had won the county championship, is that correct?
Yes, Keliher won the county championship for the first time the previous October. We beat Shannon Rangers in the final, and Keliher won the district, so I automatically became captain then.
But amazingly, you could have even been trainer of the team.
Well, I think the situation was Johnny Cullity had retired. Coming up to the championship, they hadn't secured any trainer, and I had just qualified in Strawberry Hill with a degree in physical education, which was probably unique at the time. Andy Mulner rang me. He was secretary of the county board, to know I'd be interested in training the team, and I had no interest in training any team. I wanted to be on the team. But I had my own ideas who would be good, and Andy asked me, he said there were 2 places for an inter-county coaching course in Gormanstown the following weekend. Would I go? So I says I'd go, but I rang him back to know could I bring somebody with me. So I rang Mick O'Dwyer. Was he interested? He wasn't initially, but with a small bit of cajoling, he decided he'd go. We learned a lot. And I felt coming down, Mick had got the bug, and I suppose the rest is history.
How important was it for you to captain Kerry in that win, Mick?
I always felt I was very fortunate to captain the Kerry team, lads of probably the greatest team of all time, and to have had the privilege of playing with them, and because in hindsight it was the beginning, and maybe, ideally, they shouldn't have won that year. Had they been beaten that, they probably would have won 5 or 6 in a row.
There was one great night in Keliher within the last number of years, I remember, and the cup was actually represented to Mick O'Sullivan.
My own club, Keliher, were having a fundraiser, and they came up with the idea that they'd present the All-Ireland Sam Maguire to me, something that I never had the privilege. So they decided they'd invite all the Dublin panel of that year, and it was my old sparring partner Sean Doherty presented the cup to me. Everyone aspired to captain an All-Ireland winning team. You never think it's going to happen. It happened, and you just happened to be at the right place at the right time.
Who had been your captain heroes?
I suppose Mick O'Connell, Mick O'Dwyer would have been the heroes for our generation, and they were the ultimate role models.
Is Mick O'Sullivan the man that's remembered for not having accepted the Sam Maguire Cup despite that he was captain?
I think that's my only call to fame.
The greatest honour that any captain could have in Gaelic football, Weeshie, is to hold the Sam Maguire aloft in the Horgan stand on All-Ireland final day, and I was very privileged to have done that in a roundabout way, because my poor colleague, Mick O'Sullivan, got injured.
When did it dawn on you, Pat, that you were going to go up to receive the Sam Maguire Cup, and what were your thoughts about it, accepting it?
I'll tell you this, because it was my first All-Ireland final. I was 19 years of age. It never dawned on me, to be perfectly honest. It would have dawned on the selectors, all right, at half-time. Dennis McCarthy from Keliher was the selector, and the first I knew about it was when the game was over. Somebody came up to me to say, look, you're accepting the cup on behalf of Mick O'Connell, and I hadn't time to think. I was grabbed by the head steward in Croke Park at the time, and the only thing I always remember is that I remember asking him on my way up, would you tell me what's the Irish for on behalf of our son? So I gave my speech, I can give it to you now.
Gur mí maithagad a carta agus tá anáthasam an conseo a ghlacha when Kerry.
It will certainly rank as one of the worst speeches ever given on All-Ireland final day, but anyway, it was my moment in the sun.
I only hope my captain, Mick O'Sullivan, will have recovered to drink out of this cup tonight. Thank you.
And so say all of us.
When did you meet up with Mickey Ned then for the first time after that final, and what did you say to each other?
I mean, look, what could I say to him? I mean, you obviously felt very, very sorry for him, you know, missing out on the big occasions, you know. If you're born in New Zealand, the dream is to be an All Black. If you're born in Wales, the dream is to play with Wales in rugby. If you're born in Kerry, the dream is to wear the green and gold.
This is Pat Spillane. And they're getting a point for Kerry. Kerry coming back. When Dublin get a point, back come Kerry. Young Pat Spillane. This is Pat Spillane again. And there it is, another point for Kerry. And young Pat having a really great game today.
When your father and uncles before that have wore the green and gold, it's not so much a dream, it's an expectation. And if you fail to don it, you're a failure, you know. So yes, you know, I was following in illustrious footsteps, and very proud, you know, big tradition, particularly the Lions, clean it have to follow. So that's what the GA is all about. It's about families and clubs and communities passing the torch from generation to generation, and it was passed from my father and my uncles, the Lions, on to me, and I hope I'll pass it on to my son and nephews and whatever like that.
When you look at Kerry captains now accepting the Sam Maguire Cup and they're up in the Horgan stand, what's so symbolic about it?
Pride, and you know, pride, a deep satisfaction that, like I said, the torch is still being passed on. The tradition is still as strong as ever. The quality, the cream, the beautiful football is still being played within the county, and you get flashbacks of just all the greats, you know, the Mick O'Connells and the Sheehys and down through the years, all the great Kerry captains.
What's your one defining GA moment?
I suppose getting that ultimate honour of leading your county to All-Ireland glory in Croke Park by holding the Sam Maguire Cup aloft in the Horgan stand.
Ogie Moran captained Kerry in 1978 when they won the first of a glorious 4 in a row All-Ireland titles. But it wasn't his first final in Croke Park. In 1962, he was mascot when Kerry defeated Roscommon in that All-Ireland final. Ogie, do you remember being mascot? How did all that come about?
I remember well, Weeshie. It was a great excitement for a 6-year-old. Our family were very friendly with the Sheehys, and my father was very friendly with John Joe Sheehy, and Sean O was captain the same day. And I'm not sure how it materialised, but I ended up being Sean Oak's mascot. And I remember going out on the field that day. I remember walking behind the RTM Boys band, and it was a fantastic occasion for a 6-year-old kid to be, you know, that close to the action, that part of that huge buzz on the ground, you know.
Bale was your club, Shannon Rangers was your team. Was that how the captaincy came about?
Yeah, we won the county championship in '77, a very good Shannon Rangers team, and that gave me the honour and privilege of captaining Kerry in '78.
What age were you when you were captain?
21.
What did it mean to you to be captain of Kerry all that year? Did it put added pressure on you? What was it like?
I think it was a fantastic honour, and you know, very much aware of that. It was great for the club, it was great for the Shannon Rangers and the Bale. Owen and I were involved together, so it was fantastic to have both guys from the same town on the team, you know. So, I mean, we were very lucky. Our families were always very close together, both his family and our family.
The run up to the final against Dublin, the training in Killarney, and you were eating in the Park Place Hotel. I'd say the media input wasn't as big then as it is now. Was there huge hype surrounding that game?
I suppose not as much now, but at the same time, at the time, it was very big because Dublin were going for 3 in a row. And we'd beat them in '75, probably against the run of play. Possibly we were very young at the time, you know. So I suppose from our point of view, it was important to win in '78 because we had lost '76, probably to our own fault to some extent. And '77, then you know, they bet us fairly and squarely, you could say. It was a fantastic game, but we'd no complaints for that one. So I suppose it was important for ourselves to try establish our presence again, you know.
The final against Dublin, of course, was a dream for you because you were thinking about your speech long before the full-time whistle went. 5-11 to 9 points in the final. I mean, that was something unique, wasn't it?
It was incredible because at the start of the game we were down 6 points to 1 instead. If I recall, we were down certainly 5 points to 1. And I said, geez, we're going to get hammered here today. And I was saying to myself, looking down to the hill, 16 goals was 6 points, and Brian Mullins got a point, and Jimmy Keevely got a point, and we were looking as if they were all over us. And then John Egan got the goal, and then Mikey got the goal.
What does he say about that goal now after, when you'd meet him now, when you'd be having a few pints, and what would he say to you about it?
I don't know, I remember when Paddy Cullen's pub in Dublin, inside in Paddy Cullen's pub there, and his photographs of the whole, 4 or 5 clips of the whole move, and Paddy Cullen would always say to Mikey, "'Twas I made you famous, Mikey," you know, and Mikey would always say, but I made you a fortune, you know.
You were really at your prime that time. What was it like for you then, walking up to the Horgan stand, accepting the cup, and had your speech made out, and what are your memories of it?
I certainly knew, with 5 minutes to go, I said, geez, I'm going to be up here in a few minutes' time, you know, at that stage we weren't going to be caught. But it was only towards the end of the game, because in the first half we were down a lot. You must remember in the 77 semi-final we were 2 points up with about 7 minutes to go as well, so we weren't really out the gate till the game was over, you know.
Agus tá sé do an óra go manis an carn of runna Donecha Ogie Moran.
I'd like to say a special word of thanks to one man. Oh, I don't know how we're going to thank him. You know, he's done everything for us. I'd like to say a special word of thanks to Mick O'Connell.
Everybody talks about coming back to Kerry with the cup.
Great following day, great afterwards with your family after the game, with your family, your club mates. That's probably a very special time, you know. And then I said when both were involved, Owen, I was looking after the captain. Owen got the 3 goals, so it was very special for our area at home, you know. We were in Tralee Monday night, we were in Clarny Tuesday night, and then we were back in Ballybunny Wednesday night. And that was during the Stole races, so it was fantastic, you know.
Does that game stand out above everyone else for you? Or was there one particular championship game, Ogie, that you look back on with great memories?
75 was very special, really, you know, because it was our first All-Ireland in Crow Park. And it went well for us the day, so it was fantastic. And then I suppose 78, being captain is always very, very special, you know. They were 2 special days for me anyway, 75 and 78.
Who would have been your favourite captain?
So Mick O'Connell, was my father was from Sussa and Ballinaskellig, so I always had a kind of the South Kerry boys were always very, very well gotten out house anyway, because my father was a very avid Gael man.
So looking back now through all those decades, the one abiding memory, Ogie, of being captain of Kerry and that day?
After the game, meeting with my family and my club mates after the game was a special memory for me.
Tim Kennelly played with Kerry from 1975 until 1983, and he made 31 championship appearances with them. I'm here in Listowel, hometown of the late Tim Kennelly, talking to his wife, Nuala. How did you meet, by the way?
At a carnival that was out in Finnewick. I was just after coming to Listowel. I was working at the telephone exchange, and I went out to the carnival, and he was out there.
Was he completely engrossed in football then?
No, he was farming, and the football was there as well. Like, you know, he played with the club at the time. He hadn't started, I don't think, playing with Kerry at all then.
When he got on the Kerry team then first, Nuala, do you remember him being away training and stuff like that?
Training, he was gone training, he used to go training with Jimmy Deenihan and that, you know, they gone off every evening.
How important was it in his life, Nuala?
At that stage, at 75, like, it was consumed by football then, you know. The big one was 79 when he was captain, you know. That was the big one. In 78, we got married just the Saturday after the All-Ireland, so we were delighted, of course, when Paddy Cullen left the goal in.
What did being captain of Kerry mean to him?
Oh, it meant a lot to him. Like, we were after buying the pub as well at the time, you know, and it meant an awful lot as well to bring home the cup, you know, to the store. He was very happy with it.
Here is the Sam Maguire Cup, and it is exactly 50 years ago since a Kerry man first took this Sam Maguire Cup in 1929. It was Joe Barrett in those days. In 1979, it's Tim Kennelly, and there's Tim, obviously moved as the leader of this truly great team.
Shanna Willara, August Anish, Brosnan Corn, our captain Kerry.
When the lads came along then, was it all football in the home? What
it was all football, it was all, yeah, from very early on. The lads just play, go up to the sports field every day, I'd say, with the football bags, like, you know. But Timmy was always with them as well. He'd always go up with them, like, and he'd be, you know, I suppose, showing them how to play or that. He was involved with them, you know, the whole time, you know, which was great.
Of course, Noel, your dad, Tim, captain Kerry in 1979, I mean, that must have meant an awful lot to you and to the family, and to him in particular.
That meant an awful lot to him. Like I said, he's the only sole man to have captain Kerry, like, and it's a special, unique group, like, you know, that people are very, very, very lucky to get into, like, that you've, it's a hard thing to do to captain Kerry, first of all. Like, you have to win county championships, and then you have to get on the Kerry team, and then you have to win Munster and win the All-Ireland, so it takes a lot of things to win an All-Ireland as the captain.
When you look at the Golden Years video of that great Kerry team, and I know yourself and Tig often do, you've told me that yourself, what do you think of your dad as a footballer?
Well, we used to always say to him, and we used to try and, you know, try and get him a small bit upset, like, but we used to always say that he had a great team around him, like, that he wasn't really that good, you know, but he used to always come back with it, like, that he was the centre back and he held the middle, like, you know. But no, I suppose, you know, talking to a lot of the colleagues around the time of the funeral, they always said that he was a great passer of the ball, and you wouldn't see it actually in the Golden Years because it's more, we'll say, forward playing scores and stuff, but he was a great passer, I'd say, and no, he'd fierce strength, like, he was obviously known as the horse, you know, so that was, I suppose, strength came naturally to him with the farming and the whole lot.
Tony Hanaho not able to position himself, Tim Kennelly able to position himself, and indeed the Kerry team. But the referee has awarded them a free.
And of course, Nuala, yourself and Tim and Noel went to Australia in 2005 to see Tig winning the Premiership, becoming the first ever Irishman to win an Australian Premiership title.
Yeah, well, it kind of didn't strike us, I suppose, until afterwards, when we came back home and we saw the reception that I got, you know, what was happening. I suppose we were just kind of saying, will it happen or won't it happen, because there was such a hype over the game over there. It's very hard to, you know, kind of know whether they were going to win it or not, but when they did win it then, it was fantastic, of course. Timmy was delighted, he was over the moon, you know, it was very emotional for him as well, you know.
Did he enjoy his trips to Australia?
He did, he loved it actually, he loved going, yeah, but funny enough, he said that the last time we were there, he said, this is my last time going there, and it was actually his last time there, you know.
It was, unfortunately,
yeah.
Because he died suddenly then on December the 6th, Nuala. His funeral was one of the biggest funerals that this county has ever seen. Was the fact that his funeral was so public and so big, was that a big help to you and to the lads and to Joanne in getting over that trauma?
It was, yeah, there was great support, yeah, it was marvellous really to see the big crowd, and everybody acknowledged him. It was marvellous really, you know, but it was a pity for him to die, to have to, you know, for that to happen really, you know, it is, but sure.
Looking back now, Nuala, at him, would you have ever wanted him to do anything else, only Captain Kerry, to win an All-Ireland?
No, it was his life, really, you know, football was his life. He lived for it, really, you know, day and, you know, every day. His father was the driving force behind him, I suppose, really, because the father was stone mad for football.
In 1980, Kerry won their 57th Munster title and their 26th All-Ireland, and the captain that glorious day in Croke Park was none other than the great Austin Stacks man, George Power. What did 1980 mean to you then, Joe? Did you dream as a young boy that you captain Kerry?
Well, I was lucky enough to captain the Kerry Miners 10 years previous in 1970, and we were beaten by Galway in the All-Ireland final after replay by 1 point, and at that time, as I said before, we had a great team that time, we had 9 or 10 of the team that went on to win the All-Irelands in 75 after that. I think that was the beginning of, I would say, if you want to call it, the great years,
Of course, your captaincy came in 1980 because the Stacks won the county championship the previous year. Great club, it meant a lot to you, great tradition, the Landers brothers and the late Frank King and all those people.
Oh, well, the Austin Stacks was a great club. We were lucky enough when we were growing up in the school here in Treaty National School. Number one, you had Micheál Hayes, who looked after all the juveniles, remember the club, and then you had the late James Howard as well, And I think those two people alone did a lot for the club, especially underage, because we had a great underage structure then. And I suppose in the national school, then you had a great bit of tournaments and all that. So most of the players, especially the Stacks club, after I think 37 years, won the county championship back in 1973 that time, after a 37-year break,
Then, of course, he came to the final against Roscommon, 1-9 to 1-6. What happened before that final, and you weren't very near missing it?
Between club games and actually training, with sprinting with the wire and stuff like that, I pulled a hamstring. It was a serious pull, So I spent a week or 2 weeks before in Cork with Dr. Con Murphy, who was looking after us at that time, And Con and myself decided that if you play out this game, get into the there's an All-Ireland final and captain the team and the whole lot, he was kind of reckoning that I wouldn't play anymore, but sure, we went on to play 6 more years after that.
It was a dull kind of a game, and I remember you telling me one time that if Roscommon had played to the best of their ability, that they'd have won the game.
Well, I think if you look back at the start there, I think Jigger O'Connell or something had a goal in, they were a goal and something up before we knew it, and as the game got a bit tighter, they became more physical on it, and I think naturally then we had the best free taker on the pitch, and Mikey kicked everything over the bar, which resulted in, as you see, 1-9, 1-6, there was only 3 points at the end, but I think they had definitely had us on the rack that day.
Curling in and it's curling over. Oh, lovely point. A delightful point there, scored by Mikey Sheehy.
What was it like for Ger Powell leading the team around Croke Park and then going up to the Horgan stand to collect the cup afterwards?
Well, it's a great honour now, looking back on it, when you're there, Weeshie, and you're playing, you don't look at captaincy and all that, but I suppose in the later years and all that, and being captain of the Kerry team is a huge honour in this county. It was great to come back to the Stacks, because I think was it Mick Doyle was the last man the captain, if I'm right, before that, so there was a huge, we had won out a few county championships, and Jono was captain a few times, and Ger Keefe were captain a few times, but it didn't work out,
You had plenty of time sitting in the dugout to think about what you were going to say, and
Jean Drummond, who was another great man, wrote out the speech for me in Irish because he was very friendly with my father, so he had the speech written out for me, so we learned it off. But you must remember that a few weeks before it, John Connolly gave his famous speech, and I couldn't match that.
All the captains would tell you that coming home, crossing the border, the bonfires and landing in Keliher, in Tralee and Rathmore, that is very special.
Well, it is, it is great to captain the team, really, but you're always coming back into Kerry when you come down to Mallow. You can say from Mallow on, it's fantastic, But going to the schools and all here, I still have photographs of going to national schools and all here around the town, walking up the rock. We had a parade up the rock with the cup and everything, coming into this clubhouse here, and it was a great honour for the whole club,
Would you say that you got your athleticism and your football from your father?
Oh, definitely, because a lot of the Limerick people would tell me, that how my father used to play and all that. He'd be in the backs and the forwards and the lot, everything, And at that time, I suppose you had Mick Mackey himself on the Limerick set up, and I suppose you had Christy Riordan on the Cork and people like that,
Jimmy Deenihan from Fanoo captained Kerry to their 27th All-Ireland title in 1981. Now a member of Dáil Éireann, he had the unique honour of captaining Kerry to their historic 4 in a row. Jimmy Deenihan, was it the greatest day of your sporting life?
Well, it probably was. Winning the first All-Ireland
was of particular significance, but certainly captaining Kerry was very important, and it capped off my career because that was really the last time I suppose I played in the championship with Kerry. That particular team had really gelled together, and we had matured from 1975, and more importantly so, we tasted defeat as well in 76 and 77, and as a result we were a better team both mentally and physically because of that. And by 1981 we were unbeatable really. Being captain of the Kerry team is a very important position to have in your county. It's probably the most important at that particular time. Obviously the manager of the team is very important, but being captain too is of particular relevance, and certainly I understood the responsibilities of that.
Was there a lot of media interest in yourself personally, Jimmy, being captain in the weeks preceding the final?
Well, there was. That particular time actually there wasn't the same level of sports coverage as you have now, but at the same time you had to be continuously available to the media.
Had your political ambitions come to the fore by then? Had you begun to think about politics before you captain Kerry?
No, Weeshie, the only time that I thought about politics was when I was asked 3 days before the election commenced in 1980, in November of 82. I had no ambitions at all politically. I was interested in politics, but I had no political ambition whatsoever. You could say, I suppose, I became a politician by accident more than anything else.
Were you called on in the dressing room to give a speech?
If you were captain, you had to make the speech beforehand. You had to do some psyching up, although Mick O'Connell did most of that himself. But the captain always took that responsibility to have a few appropriate words before the team went on the pitch. The previous captains before me of that 4 in a row, they were all fairly tight with their words. They were always well-chosen words that would have the effect that you would want it to have.
Of course, what stands out is that wonderful, marvellous goal by Jack O'Shea when the move started behind the Giron goal and he finished it above. It was one of the greatest goals ever scored in an All-Ireland final.
Well, I remember it because I suppose I could have left the ball go wide.
And had your speech prepared?
I had it fairly well prepared. I spoke to people about it. I asked people at the time, like Brian McMahon, even John B. Keane, what should someone say or how should you approach it? I remember I consulted with my old Irish teacher, Johnny Flaherty. So I had a fairly well thought through speech, to be honest with you, for that occasion.
Yeah. And of course the important thing then, which would be very important for you, is bringing the cup home to the little village.
Well, certainly bringing it back to Finnew Cross. The fact is that time Kerry had won it 4 in a row, and Kerry people, when they've put a few together, they get some way complacent about it, even back then. So they were all looking for the 5 in a row, even when we won the 4 in a row. So maybe coming into Tralee and Killarney, it wasn't maybe as hyped up as the first time we won. I remember that. There wasn't a huge crowd there at that particular time, although we had won 4 in a row, because people thought we were going to win again the following year and win 5 in a row. One thing that really stands out in my mind was the fact that the Lowry brothers came down, especially from Offaly, to be with me on that occasion. So it would just show you how they thought about it, that Offaly team. And in all fairness to them, they were rewarded the following year when they had the sportsmanship to come down and celebrate All-Ireland victory with us in 81. The following year then, of course, they enjoyed the achievement of winning an All-Ireland, which was very important for them.
What has it meant to you to have captain Kerry to that All-Ireland title in 1981?
Playing with Kerry is an honour, winning an All-Ireland with Kerry is a great honour, and captaining Kerry is even the greatest achievement of all. And I fully appreciated that achievement at that particular time. There are new teams taking over all of the time, so you can't live in the past. But having said that, it's nice when people acknowledge the fact that you're captain of a great Kerry team. Certainly, I suppose it's
it gives you a nice feeling, and it's a feeling of achievement as well. And you're in a very unique group of people as well, because not everyone gets that opportunity, and some of the great Kerry players never got the opportunity of captaining the team because of our system here.
Ambrose O'Donovan played with Kerry from 1984 until 1993, but his greatest day came in 1984 when he became the youngest ever Kerry captain to lead his county to victory in Croke Park. Ambrose, looking back now through all those years, what's it like having stood in the Horgan stand and accepted the cup as the youngest captain of all time?
I suppose it's a memory that I'll never forget. It was a very special day, I suppose. The lead up to it, I suppose people forget about it, was Kerry had lost 5-0 in 82. We'd lost by a goal above in Caherciveen in 83, a last minute goal to Tyg Murphy, and this team was written off. So to come back in centenary year, and we were conscious of the fact that it was centenary year and a very special year in the GA calendar, and indeed in the history of the GA, and I think that we made a special effort. Now, as you say, I was breaking on the team in 83, and I was picked in 84, and then your own club Legion and Crokes won the County Championship, Kennelly combined, and Diarmid was on the Kerry team at the time, Diarmid O'Donovan, and he broke his wrist in training, and the captaincy fell to me, and the rest, they say, is history. But as you say, it's a very, very special feeling to walk up the steps of the Horgan and to accept the cup, I think, for the whole county, more than yourself. I think it's something very special and something you'll never forget.
What was it like then, Ambrose, to build up to that and going to training and the crowds, and was there extra pressure on you? Did you feel that there was pressure on you?
I didn't, and I just down to a couple of fellas. I mean, Pat Spillane, I found Pat Spillane brilliant, Bomber, Ogie, Mikey, you know, they kind of came on and said, look, forget captaincy. This is a team game, it's about 15 of us, and like your job is on the team, you're a midfielder, you know, yourself and Jacko have your job laid out for you, and forget captaincy. It's great to be captain and everything else, but like, put it in the back of your mind and concentrate and give 110% to win the All-Ireland. The boys had been there, and I mean, they knew what to expect, and then the fact that they were playing Dublin, I think, put an extra bit of spice to it. It was the final that everybody wanted, the centenary final, Kerry-Dublin clash. And as you said, the weeks up to it were very special, all right, for us sending good wishes and whatnot, but I think deep down there was only one thing in our minds, that was bringing home Sam Maguire.
Crossover now towards Barney Rock, Rock's got it in front of the goal, he takes his shot.
Dublin was strong, robust, and as I said, they were strong in the tackle, but the one thing we had over them, I think, was Bomber inside full foul and Spillane on the wing. I remember Spillane getting up that morning, I was room with Spillane, he had a hot water bottle on his knee. The next thing he had a cold water put on his knee, and I remember the woman, the attendant in the hotel that was coming up to us, and she says to me, is this man real? She says, or is he off his head? He says he wants a hot water bottle and then he wants to put ice in the knee. She says, my God, she says, you're crazy down there. But I remember Spillane bouncing around the place with a pair of togs on him. We look out the window in Malahide and he says to me, I'd hate to man be marking Pat Spillane today. And how right he was. He got man of the match.
Out of the wing to Pat Spillane. Bamboozling the way through, Pat takes a shot and sends it over the bar. A bamboozling piece of football finished by this man.
Ambrose, you won 3 All-Ireland medals in the middle of the field, one of the toughest positions to play in Gaelic football. You were an outstanding midfielder, and your partner was Jack O'Shea. Jack O'Shea, reputed to be one of the greatest GA players of all time. What was your role playing in All-Ireland finals, in that particular final with Jacko, and what type of an individual was he to play with?
My task was very simple. I stayed between the two 50s and more defensive. That was it. Jacko was given the freedom of the pitch to roam. I mean, what a great man to give the freedom of the pitch to. I mean, Jacko was a great man to carry a ball. You know, he had brilliant skills and he was a good finisher. I mean, Jacko, it was no problem. Jacko to score a goal and kick points.
Now, your memories, the full-time whistle goes, Beldam breaks out all over the field. You have to get to the Horgan stand. What are your memories of what happened after?
There's a man in Croke Park, and you know, his name eludes me at the moment, but his job, of course, he's employed by Croke Park to catch you the minute the whistle is over, and he'd grab you by the shoulder and pull you straight to the Horgan. And like, Bomber was the first man that came up to me, and I think Timmy Dowd ran over, and we were all together, like, and we just realised that we'd won the All-Ireland. And this fella had a hold to my jersey, and he kept pulling me. It was a lot harder than Jim Ryan. If he hit me, I'll tell you the truth, he'd hold to my hand. And I can remember saying to him, I said, if you don't leave your hand, I says, one of the two of us won't go up the Horgan steps. I says, and it won't be me. I says, I will go up the steps, but you won't.
Had you your speech made out and tell us what you say and who presented the cup to you?
Paddy Buggy. You would have been thinking about it, but I mean, you wouldn't have a speech made out, but you know what to think of. I mean, it was easy for me because I had to thank Keliher Club, number one, for giving me the captaincy, and number two, I felt for Dermot O'Donovan, who was the first cousin of my wife's. I had to say something about Dermot, and I suppose my club and Dublin, the rest was kind of normal.
Every Kerry footballer that ever captained Kerry to win an All-Ireland or win an All-Ireland medal, they talk about coming back to Kerry with the cup. It was very special for you because you came back and you passed through Rathmore, you weren't far from Guineguilla, and I remember distinctly the thousands in Killarney. They're all wonderful memories. No doubt they remain etched in your mind, Ambrose.
They will, yeah. It started in Mallow for me because I would have had a brother-in-law in Mallow, Derry. And I never realised there was many Kerry people in Mallow. But Rathmore, as you say, was a big stop for me that year because I remember going down as a young fellow watching DJ Crowley come off the train. They'd won in 69, 70. And it was a big thing, it was a big thing outside. It was a night to remember, the Sam Maguire coming to Rathmore. But as you say, when it came to Killarney, it just drove home to you the importance of what we'd done. More than anything else, the crowd, the relief in people's eyes, the tears in their eyes. It was great.
And your song then, Sweet Forget Me Not, you kept singing that in the rounds. Bringing it back to Guineguilla must have been very special because your mum and your dad were alive at the time and it was very special to your family.
It was indeed. Guineguilla was a very special place to me because I started my football there. And I just say mum and dad were alive that time. And it was something that I'll never forget. The night itself, it bucketed down rain, which was nothing new for us. We were well accustomed to rain. But the people that were there, I saw all people, tears coming to their eyes. It meant something to me, very, very special.
Talking about Kerry captains, Ambrose, and you followed in a tremendous tradition of Kerry captains down through the years, likes of Paddy Kennedy and Joe Barrett and all those. With all those legendary names, Johnny Cullity, your neighbour here in Killarney, and Mick O'Connell, all those legendary captains, would they have been in your mind?
They would, of course. I mean, the one thing we were always made conscious of, I think, under any Kerry trainer I had, there was an onus on you when you put on a Kerry jersey to think of the people that went before you and wear the jersey with the honour that they did, and every one of them did. And I mean, you look at the great Kerry footballers with Dowling. I mean, they were all true sportsmen. They were great people on and off the pitch. And I mean, there's an onus on everybody, I think, even modern days, to respect the people that went before you and respect the jersey for that reason. And we were no different.
Paddy Shea captained Kerry their 29th victory in 1985. He captained them on the strength of West Kerry winning the county championship the previous year. It was unusual to get the captaincy out of what you'd done with West Kerry. You were the manager, trainer, player with West Kerry the previous year.
I remember it well. Paul Scanlon from Dingle approached me and he said, look, it would be a great year to win the championship 84 and there's a good foundation of a team there. And it's only just a matter of getting them together and getting them organised. Trying to fit in divisional training was difficult. That was the hardest part of it, but we managed.
Do you think that it still argues well that the captain of the Kerry team should come from the winning county champions, divisional teams and club teams? That goes back many decades in Kerry. Is it a good thing?
I don't know. I suppose that's for and against it. Weeshie really. Obviously in modern football now at the moment, obviously a captain plays a very, very big part. In 1975 when we won our first All-Ireland, I know for a fact that Mick O'Sullivan on that occasion played a really, really big part. Going out onto the field and the speeches before going out onto the field and all of that. And Mickey was a really, really good captain. So a captain does play a big part, probably, all right. And you can be lucky and you can be unlucky.
1985 dawned and Paddy Shea was appointed captain. You were following the footsteps of the late Paddy Kennedy and Bill Dillon, two legendary West Kerry men. Were you conscious of the fact that you were following in the footsteps of these two famous captains?
Here I wasn't really. Weeshie, it was a big honour. it was a great honour to get the captaincy of it. I suppose it was the only accolade that I hadn't achieved in the game, and it was great. It is a great honour to captain Kerry, and it is a bigger honour still if you manage to win the All-Ireland. So I was very fortunate, and I'm very proud of the fact.
But in the run-up to the final and the preparations, there was a distraction because there was a huge furore in the national media about the Bendix washing machine incident that went on. Talk to us about that and the part that you played in it as captain.
In 1981, the Kerry team went on a world tour, and a big fundraising campaign went on at that stage, at that time, and we were to go on a American trip again in '85, and it would be very difficult for us, I'd say, to have the same kind of a collection or gathering of funds for the team to go away. So there was an opportunity there with this Bendix washing machine. I think, Frank King, God rest his soul, was chairman at the time, and I think there was a directive came from Croke Park that what the Kerry team were doing was unconstitutional, and it was.
You were advertising.
We were to appear on the Sunday press of the time. The Sunday press, a full picture behind the Bendix washing machine, all of the Kerry players, and we were getting, I think it was £30,000 for our American holiday. We were saying, was it going to be a distraction? Was it going to distract the team from playing in the final and all that? But it didn't actually, because we were all very mature at that stage anyhow.
What onus was on you, Paddy, as captain in relation to the build-up and in relation to the press and the media? Was it as intense then as it is now in 2009?
Weeshie, I think if you examine the performances of captains in major games, in All-Ireland finals, normally the captain doesn't have a good game. And I was very, very, very conscious of that coming up to the game, and I was very, very determined to ensure, or to give myself every possible chance for kind of segregating the captaincy and just going out onto the field and ensuring that I was going to do my primary job, which was to play cornerback for Kerry and to play to the best of my ability. And I think I managed to do that all right.
The captain usually gives some bit of a speech in the dressing room and he rallies the troops and things. Did you do that?
All the captains that I played with always gave a spiff in the dressing room, I did. But I think a very funny incident happened in that final. Was obviously 85. Also was the year that I built the pub here in Ventry. There was a very good friend of mine who went to the All-Ireland, Dan Brick, very famous for building the house in Inishikillan for Charlie Haughey. So Dan was in the Horgan stand anyhow, but when Joe McNally scored one goal, and then he scored a second goal, Dan reckoned anyhow that the whole full back line was shaking, and that Paddy Shea was shaking, being the captain, but the fella that was doing most of the shaking was the bank manager up in the stand that gave me the loan to build the pub.
Well, while he might have said that Paddy Shea was shaking, you still held your men scoreless that particular day. But you went in at half-time 9 points up. But as you said, Joe McNally came out in the second half and he rattled in 2 goals. Was there any time that you thought that you wouldn't be accepting the cup?
Oh, jeepers, there was. I mean, I think what really turned the tide for us there, Dublin were really coming back at us, and I think what really turned us, Pat Spillane kicked a great point right under the Horgan stand.
For Pat Spillane, this is an important kick. That's why he's the great player that he is. Pat Spillane, when Kerry needed it most.
Moran on our Dumpster, our Curtin, our Brosnan, our Donie O'Sullivan.
Bringing home the cup then to Kerry, bringing home the cup to West Kerry, bringing it home to the Gaeltacht, was it something that you had dreamt about? And had you had seen all this growing up as a young fella, like most Kerry young lads would?
That's right. I regret an awful lot of the homecoming because I was hell-bent in landing the cup in the cross here in Ventry, and that was my lifelong ambition, And I should have given more consideration, I think, in hindsight, to the other little places like Onaskal, Camp coming home from Tralee. Even actually we didn't even go around the town with the cup, which was my fault. And I regret that, actually.
Later on in your career, then, Paddy, when you were training Kerry teams, you had Liam Hasset captain one year and you had Sheamus Moynihan captain another year. Would you have put any extra onus on the captains of those teams, you being trainer, manager of the Kerry team? Did the captaincy bear anything different for them?
No, the only regret I have in all of that is actually the appointed captain for the 97 All-Ireland didn't actually make the team for the final, and that was unfortunate. I regretted that for Mike Hasset, because believe it or not, I would have Mike Hasset in one of my top 3 players that I trained in my time as being one of the best players that I've trained for. I think he had everything.
Yeah, and then of course Sheamus Moynihan captain Jordan in 2000.
Sheamus was a great captain, and there is no player in my time and in the teams that I prepared and trained has given as much to Kerry footballer as what Sheamus Moynihan gave.
Tommy Doyle played with Kerry from 1977 to 1989. He played 12 years, and in those 12 years he had 41 championship appearances for his county and he scored 25 points. 1986 he captained Kerry to their 30th All-Ireland final. Tommy, the first thing I must say to you is you were born in America, you weren't born in Kerry. Talk to us about your birth.
Born in Chicago, Weeshie, would you believe that? My mum is from up West Clare Lady. Kilmurray Brickham would be her club. My dad, of course, born in Aunaskal, and they both met, I think, in New York, moved to Chicago, and that's where we were born. For a long, long time, the great Paddy Kenny, who I had the privilege of meeting once, would have been a god in our house. My heroes were people like Mick O'Connell, Mick O'Dwyer, Pat Griffin, Donie O'Sullivan, who taught me later and gave me a lot of advice after, and people like John Dowling, where I bought my first pair of football boots, God rest him.
Was 1986 your greatest day, Tommy, when you mounted the steps after beating Tyrone?
I suppose it would, Weeshie, yes. You know, obviously playing, and I had some great days with our own club behind, and we were a small little club, fantastic days. But I suppose when you look at everything, being captain, having the honour to be captain, and to lead a county, I mean, when you walk up those steps, particularly after winning, and just remember the great captains that went before you, you understand then that how fantastic a day it is.
Did you realise, Tommy, in 86 the time was catching up on you?
I did, yeah, I think we all did. But funny enough, I did think there was a year or two left in us. I was quite confident that when we got over Cork in 86, that we had a great chance of getting into the final. And but you would be, but again you'd keep going on and you'd keep training away, but it had to come at some stage. But I think even 2 weeks before that game, again I was in trouble myself, Paddy Shea was in trouble, Shawnee Welsh, going into the game. And then I remember the morning of the game, we were all downstairs and there was no sign of Jacko, and that was unusual because Jacko would always be first down, but Jacko was in bed with a raving temperature. He couldn't even talk, he was so sick. Knowing Jacko Shea, that wasn't going to stop him. So I remember we were on the pitch and the ball was thrown in, and we kind of said, well, okay, we've Ambrose midfield, so, you know, Jacko might be able to carry us through today, but Ambrose will. And sure enough, Ambrose was going through in a massive solo run up the middle, got fouled in the 14-yard run inside the square, and all of a sudden, ankle gone by Ambrose. We get a penalty. Jacko hops it off the crossbar, and there we are.
Skelton against Jack O'Shea. It's gone off the post, and John Lynch is there for safety. What a let-off.
You must have very pleasant memories of accepting the cup and then bringing it back to Aunaskal, what Paddy Kennedy had done in 1946 before you, to your own little club.
Winning it first, Weeshie, and accepting it on behalf of Kerry. When you do that, you just think of the traditions before you, and the great captains, apart from me, the great captains before you, and that went up that podium, and then coming back to the county, and then obviously, of course, going back to Aunaskal and camp first, and then back into Aunaskal. The welcome we got back there was unbelievable.
Had you any visions, Tommy, and had anybody, that Kerry wouldn't be back again until 1997,
No.
lifting that cup?
I didn't think it would take us, I think, 11 years to win a final. I was thrilled when it did, because I hated the fact that I was supposed to be the last man remembered for winning a title.
You became captain because West Kerry won the...
We won two county championships, Weeshie,
yeah.
84, 85, and the Lisbol Club nominated Paddy O'Shea in 84 and then me in 85. They were West Kerry champions. Great guys, great club team, fantastic Irish people, fantastic West Kerry people.
Natural enough, you can't talk to Tommy Doyle without talking about the 1982 All-Ireland final. That infamous goal that Sheamus Darby scored to stop Kerry from winning the 5 in a row. And allegedly, he gave you a little nudge in the back and the ball finished up in the back of the net. And could you talk to us around that? You have always reluctantly avoided the question.
The way I look at that is, Weeshie, Sheamus Darby scored the goal that day, and to beat Charlie Nelligan from where he did, it had to be a great goal. Whether he pushed me in the back or not doesn't matter, and as I say, I wouldn't be commenting on it because I'll take nothing away from Offaly, the All-Ireland champions of 82, deservedly so. How it came about, whatever way I think I was playing right half back the same day, but whatever happened, Sheamus Darby had got loose inside in the corner, and there was nobody around, as it were, to so-called mind the house. So I ran back, and as I say, the rest is history. And as I said, Sheamus got a good goal to beat Charlie Nelligan from the distance and angle he did. But it had to be a great shot. It was a once-off. And as I say, I have some great friends in Offaly, and I've been up to a lot of functions since with all those lads, and they're on the day deservedly.
Would you say that he didn't nudge you?
We won't go down there now. We'll leave it at that. As I say, it'll be for the book.
Following 1986 and that great win in the All-Ireland final, it took Kerry 11 years before they recaptured the Sam Maguire Cup. However, during that period, one of Kerry's greatest ever footballers, Jack O'Shea, captained Ireland against Australia to win the International Rules Series. Jacko explains how that captaincy came about.
I remember Kevin Heflin coming out to training to Belfield. I think it was a Tuesday night, probably early in September, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the All-Ireland final. And I remember he standing on the sideline, watching us, training there that night. And he came to me afterwards and asked me or he just said to me, he said, "I would like you to be captain of the Irish team." And I was delighted to accept his offer at that time, because it was a great honour to captain your country. It was also a great honour to be recognised to captain your team by a manager who would have been our greatest rival probably at the time as well, in around that period and for the years prior to that. So I was privileged to be captain of that team, yeah.
Did you ever captain Kerry?
I got 2 opportunities. I was captain in 1983 and we unluckily got beaten in the Munster final, last minute goal by Tyg Murphy. I actually scored 2 goals and played at the end of the game as well, and it was disappointing to lose that in the last minute. And also I got the opportunity in 91, I captained the Kerry team. We won the Munster final, but unfortunately we failed in the semi-final to Down that year. I remember when I became captain in 83, I was up in Dublin training with Micheál when I heard it, and I remember the first thing Micheál said to me when we were starting out for the championship was that Jack, he said, "You'll have to learn a bit of Irish this year for accepting the trophies." And he kind of kept having fun with me that we'd prepare a little bit of Irish for accepting the cup and that, and I actually did. He actually did as well, and I learned off a bit of it, and but I never got the chance of actually saying it in the championship.
Do you think there's such a thing as a lucky captain?
Funnily enough, when I was going to school, I remember starting out in school leagues. I was captain in most teams, and we'd say in the school leagues that time, and I remember losing about 7 finals as captain. I was an unlucky captain nearly probably from the beginning.
Behind every All-Ireland winning Kerry team since the first in 1903 has been a great manager or a great trainer. We travelled to Waterville to meet Mick O'Dwyer. He trained 8 All-Ireland winning teams from 1975 until 1986.
Mick, in your opinion, what is the role of a captain on a team?
Basically, their job on the pitch is to go in for the toss and decide which way to go, and they're generally told which way to play if they win the tosses, you know. But I would always like to see a system where the manager of the team should be able to pick the most experienced player around and make him captain of the team. Then I think you would have somebody in charge that would be able to talk to the younger generation of footballers that are coming through.
Did you ever captain Kerry?
Captained the team once in New York for the Brendan Cup, and we won it, and it was the last time that the Brendan Cup was played for, and that cup is now lying in Croke Park. The only thing that I'm sorry about is I didn't hold on to it when I had it, and you know, handing it back to the fellas in Croke Park wasn't the best thing to do, but I had the satisfaction of being captain in Gaelic Park on that occasion. That was about the only time ever, and of course the reason for that being, you know, you have to win the club within the division. You have to win first, and then the divisional team would have to go on to win the county championship, and then you can appoint a captain from the divisional board or wherever. So I think it's a system that has worked well in Kerry, so I don't think there's any reason to change it in Kerry, you know, because every young fellow that plays for Kerry are well capable of captaining Kerry teams.
During your long and illustrious career, both as a player and a manager, is there one highlight that stands out above all others?
Well, I suppose there are many. The 1959 All-Ireland football final was my first time playing in Croke Park with the Kerry team in an All-Ireland final, and we won it. So that was an outstanding occasion for me, and I suppose more so for my club here in Waterville, more than any other thing. But that would be one of the great, and of course winning the All-Ireland in 1975 with the youngest team that ever won an All-Ireland title. There was a wonderful satisfaction in that, because we had a wonderful young team, a team that went on, the majority of them, to win 7 and 8 All-Ireland medals.
You're a great man for history and for love to see records being created. 1982, a bit of a sickener.
It was more than a sickener, I can assure you. But there are the things that happen in football. Maybe if we had won that one, we may not have won the 3 in a row after. But overall, I mean, we can't complain. We had a wonderful run with that team. You know, we could quite easily have won 9 All-Ireland titles in a row with that team. We were beaten by Offaly, as you know, in 82 by a point. The following year, Cork beat us by a point. And if you put them all together, we could have won 9 of them. So no complaints whatsoever. But certainly that was a very disappointing occasion in 1982.
During the 25 years between 1974 and 1998, Kerry ladies contested 11 senior football championship finals and 11 National League finals, winning them all. One of the stars of that fabulous team was Mary Jo Curran. We are here in the Glenveigh National School to talk to Mary Jo and recall and revisit that golden era of Kerry ladies football. Mary, that was a marvellous era for Kerry ladies football to win 10 All-Irelands back around the 80s and into the 90s.
It was Weeshie, I suppose. It was a different time. The game was probably a bit different as well then. I think that back when we won it there, you say you're talking about 1982 to 90, the 9 in a row, and then again in 93, the pace of the game was a bit different, a bit slower, and a few rule changes in the meantime have changed it. And I think even now that if anyone would have looked at the All-Ireland the last couple of years, the fitness, the Cork and Dublin really have taken it to a new level again, Weeshie.
And not long did you win 10 All-Ireland championships, you won something like 11 national leagues. What made that group of ladies as good as what they were?
I suppose a lot of us came up through the minors at the same time and just graduated onto the senior team, and the fact that Mick Fitzgerald really was the man that kept it all together. Mick was there from the foundation of ladies football in Kerry. He was there when the board was founded. He was with them for their first All-Ireland victory, and then he trained, and he was chairperson of the Kerry Ladies Board, and he actually was president of at national level as well. So I think Mick played a huge role in that, really, in keeping the whole team together and keeping it going for that amount of time.
Would there be a very united bunch, Mary, back that time? I presume there were great buddies both on and off the field.
Playing for Kerry, we were really Weeshie, but you had maybe four very strong clubs at the time, and there was huge rivalry between them to come to the county championship. But when it came to putting on the Kerry jersey, then we were unified, really. I suppose all right, we played as a team the whole time, and didn't matter what club you were playing with.
How was the captain of those teams decided, Mary?
Whoever won the county championship. So, and Castleisland had a great team there. They won 4 or 5 county championships in a row, and they also went on and won the All-Ireland club title.
But there was one famous year when you were appointed captain and you turned it down and you handed it over to somebody else. What was all that about?
I don't know where you get your information now, Weeshie. We won 2 county finals, all right, and I suppose the first year we won it, we had a girl, Kathleen Curran, she was the Kerry goalie. Kathleen was travelling a long distance to play with our club, and she was making a very big effort, and she was an outstanding goalkeeper in that era, and we gave Kathleen the captaincy. And the second year we won it, it was my sister Phil was the captain, and we had a meeting and we decided she'd be the captain that year.
What did it mean coming home with the trophies that time, coming back to Kerry? Was there the big adulation that there is now for ladies and for men, Mary? It was a completely different era.
It was, but at the same time you get a good reception. The evening we'd be coming home, you'd have a good old reception, all right. In the modern era, I suppose things have gone on to a new level, all right, and with probably the live coverage of all the championship games and the sponsorship there from TG Caherciveen, that has been very good for ladies football, and they also have a full-time officer now, the ladies, and an office in Croke Park, and their marketing is outstanding.
Of course, you have so many memories, Mary, and you were an all-star on 10 occasions. What are your memories of the games themselves, and the great games? What was your greatest winner? What was your most disappointing loss? You must have loads of memories.
On a personal level, it would probably have been things with the club, because you see, as you said, Kerry won 9 All-Ireland titles in a row there. Maybe coming back to win it again in '93, having lost the 2 Munster finals before that, you Waterford in '91 and '92, that probably would be a highlight. And you had the likes of Geraldine O'Shea and Marie Fitzgerald coming on the team, with some great young players coming on again, then you see, in '93. So,
looking back again now, Mary, I know that anywhere I go, people always bring up about the great Kerry ladies football team of the 9 in a row. It keeps coming up all the time. It's nice to have your ladies team remembered like that, especially in such a strong footballing county as Kerry. Do you find going around that people still say that's Mary Jo Curran and she was one of that great team? How are you remembered, do you think?
I think a lot of looking back on the past is looked at through rose-tinted glasses. And like I say, I think the standard is a way higher now. I'm not too sure how we'd survive in the modern day game. The amount of work the players are putting in now, and I've even watched the Kerry ladies there the last couple of years, the amount of work they're doing pre-season and in their own time, it's outstanding.
1997, Kerry won their 31st All-Ireland on their way. They won their 65th Munster Championship. They beat Mayo in the final, 13 points to 1-7. Liam Hasset, the Lone Rangers man, was captain, and he, would you believe, played 42 championship games with Kerry, scoring 4 goals and 36 points. Liam Hasset, was it the greatest day of your life?
Absolutely, Weeshie, yeah. It was a memorable day, absolutely. It was, I suppose, we hadn't won the All-Ireland in 11 years, and the hype surrounding it, coming up to before the match, was massive. The team, a lot of the players came off of the 95, 96 under 21 teams, and there was a lot of youth in the team, but there was also experienced players like Maurice Fitzgerald. It was great to see Maurice putting on a massive show that day, and he was man of the match deservedly, and you know, it was a great day for Kerry, a great day for Maurice to actually get the medal he was looking for so long.
In the All-Ireland semi-final, I remember it was a massive day in Croke Park that day with Collar Liam, and you beat Cavan 117 to 110.
Yeah, again, Cavan came through Ulster, and of course my own clubmate Mike Frank came on and got a great goal. He got the pass from Maurice Fitzgerald, and Mike Frank finished it to the net.
That particular goal, Liam, does it stand out etched in your memory, because there was something very special about it, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Maurice field in the middle of the field, he took a hop on a solo and he put it in, he put a spin on the ball, so it was going into Mike Frank on the outside. Mike Frank turned, he had only one thing in his head, and that was a goal, and I can still remember looking in and just seeing there was one place he could put it, and he put it there.
How many years had you played under 21 yourself?
I played in 95 and I captained in 96, so we won 2 All-Irelands that year, 95 and 96, so they were great years, and then to come along and win the All-Ireland senior 97 was absolutely fantastic.
The final itself, as you mentioned there, it was a dramatic, historic final in many ways, because we had that terrible injury to your clubmate Billy O'Shea when he collided with Maurice Fitzgerald and he broke his leg, and then Maurice got up and he went on and he kicked 9 points. He was absolutely fantastic.
He was, yeah. It was, I suppose, unfortunate that Billy got injured on the day. A lot of people would remember that he was buzzing that day, and even Maurice said it himself that if Billy didn't get injured, he probably would have been in contention for man of the match. It happened, unfortunately, and thankfully Maurice was able to continue on and play a great game and help us to win out that game.
So Maurice Fitzgerald kicks this one deep right in there, and it's gone over the bar, and that's surely now going to ensure that Kerry at the very least don't lose here this afternoon. Fitzgerald has got 9 points and it's all over.
On the run up to the final, all through the championship, it was a little bit controversial. He had won the county championship the previous year, Lone Rangers, and your brother Mike, had he been captain for the Munster final, Liam?
He played in the Munster championship and he played in the Munster final, but he got a calf injury then, which ruled him out for the Cavan match. I was captain then for the semi-final. And unfortunately then Mike wasn't selected then for the final, and you know, he was on the sub bench, and I suppose we were hoping that he'd be brought on at some stage, and he wasn't brought on. And when the final whistle went, I said to him, here you are now, you can go up the steps and you can lift Sam Maguire. But Mike, being the honest fella he is, I suppose, he said no, he says, I didn't play any part in this game today. He says, you go up and lift Sam Maguire.
Walking up the steps to receive the cup and giving the speech, what are your memories of that?
Well, I suppose, I don't know, I didn't have too much of a speech rehearsed except from watching the Kerry Golden Years and Tánas or Cornshaw Glach. I got that much from the Kerry Golden Years, and I just tried to thank as many people as I could, you know, and definitely looking out to see a green and gold. We hadn't seen it for 11 years, you know, so it was a massive day, and very proud moment for my family and for everybody concerned and for our club, Lone Rangers. You know, looking back, it would have been great if the two of us lifted it. At that time, it was one captain went up and lifted the Sam Maguire, but now there's two fellas lifting the Sam Maguire. But if we had one thing to change, that would be the only thing we'd change. The disappointing thing really was that he didn't get an All-Ireland medal in '97, you know, and people might forget that, you know, that myself and Peter O'Leary was there for years. So it did take a small bit of the glass off it. But look, that's football, and he came back and he won his All-Ireland in 2000. It was a great year in 2000 as well.
What are the memories of the homecomings, Liam?
It was a great relief that we won the All-Ireland, and coming home then there was down Denny Street. I suppose the crowds weren't seen for years, and you know, in Killarney as well. Just the whole euphoria of it was magic, and you know, you'd love to be back there again, but unfortunately it isn't in the history books now.
You won 8 Munster championships and 3 All-Irelands, and you have a National League, and you have under 21, and you have county championships. But that day in '97 in September, does that day stand out best of them all?
As you get older, you appreciate it more and more. You change the moment and it's there for history forevermore, you know, and to be part of a Kerry team is great, but to be part of an All-Ireland winning team is even better, yeah.
It was here, in the Conkeating Memorial Park, Caherciveen, where Maurice Fitzgerald, one of the game's greatest ever footballers, learned his skills. We met up with Maurice and we asked him about one of the greatest days in his life, the 1997 All-Ireland win over Mayo, when he was man of the match.
When I look back on '97, I reflect on what would be maybe a 12-month campaign that was absolutely driven with one goal in mind, having been defeated, if you remember, in an All-Ireland semi-final by Mayo in 1996, which, you know, for us was a tremendous setback. I reflect on a huge drive with a crazy ambition and a desire that was unquenched until that day, and that all was over. So I kind of look at the whole season really and remember a great group of men who gave of everything in pursuit of the ultimate, and, you know, it worked out, and that to me was the most satisfying, gratifying aspect of that game.
Looking for Kerry's 4th point and his own 2nd. He's measured it well and he's put it over the bar. That's a brilliant kick by a brilliant footballer.
Another man I was particularly delighted for was a phenomenal player. He's from your own townland, I suppose, if you want to call it that, in the East Kerry board, was Sheamus Moynihan, who for me, pound for pound, was probably one of the greatest players ever to grace the game, and, you know, was just a natural born leader, but a tremendous player. And you know, that particular era of 2000, when Sheamus captained Kerry, I thought, after a difficult enough campaign and drawn, and it was probably played into, which was unusual at the time, wasn't it? The All-Ireland was played in the month of October, which was probably first, maybe, or whatever, but I thought that was a great fitting finale for Sheamus, though he went on to win All-Ireland again after, but it was fitting that he would grace Croke Park and take the Sam Maguire. Being the player that he was, I thought it was an honour well deserved.
When you were growing up, Morris, when you were playing minor with Kerry, what was your ultimate ambition in football?
Well, I suppose I was hugely influenced. I was probably mesmerised, is the word, or calling to Mick O'Connell's house as a young child and being regaled in the stories of Kerry football and of local club football and all that. I was hugely influenced by that as a young child, and I grew up in only maybe 5 doors from Jack O'Shea, and to see Jacko going down for club training, I can remember the gear that he would wear on different nights. I was hugely influenced by that, and always wanted to be the one to receive Jacko's kick behind the goal, because we were the ball boys behind the goal. So I grew up in the tradition of those I remember watching the 81-82 county championships as well, and following that very closely and following that team very closely. So they were a huge influence on me.
Finally, you worked under, how many trainers would you have worked under? How many Kerry trainers?
I suppose I began, in fairness, I was very fortunate, I suppose, at Mick Doyle in 1988. I remember he picked me up for a game that Kerry played against Mayo, which was a relegation match, and that was my first outing, and obviously Mick, for me, was an icon, so I was always grateful to him for that opportunity, because he plucked me from obscurity, if you like, in the sense of I was just coming out of the minors, and he threw me in at the deep end there in a relegation match, which was the last game of the season for Kerry, and I remember driving up to that game, and I got very little spoken about the match, because it was go out and do what you do best, and enjoy yourself. And he was very simple about the aspects of the game. He never tried to influence too much on it, encourage you and get you to believe in yourself. And he was a tremendous help to me in the starters there as well. But from then, I suppose it went from Micko on to Mickey Ned to Ogie Moran to Paddy, I guess, would be the management that I would have worked under. Yeah.
Sheamus Moynihan has won every honour that the game had to give. He played with Kerry from 1992 to 2006. From Shrone the Loch out in Glenflesk, he captained Kerry in 2000 to the ultimate honour. Sheamus, captain your county to All-Ireland victory. What was it like?
It was a very special year, of course. Weeshie, I think, to get the opportunity to captain Kerry at any stage is fantastic, and I suppose to go the full distance and winning the Sam Maguires is a great feeling. And there's so many pitfalls along the way. I suppose even to get the opportunity to be captain, there's so many twists and turns, and in Kerry, I suppose, is unique in the sense that you have to win the county championship, number one, and then you have to win the local district championship. So there's a lot of parts of the jigsaw, and obviously I was very grateful to East Kerry and to my own club Glenflesk. Then afterwards to win the Ordinary Cup and to get the nomination to be captain. So it was a fantastic honour.
And of course, that particular year, Sheamus, it was a long journey for you, because you had to play 2 drawn games and then you had extra time. What are your memories of the closing stages of the drawn game?
We started off fairly brightly, and Armagh came back into the game, and I suppose Maurice Fitzgerald came on in the second half and got one of the wonder goals. So he ran through on soloing in the right, and he turned on to the left and put it into the corner of the net. And at that stage, we looked very comfortable. We were very relieved going in that day, because it looked at one stage when Kieran McGeaney put the ball over the bar with a couple of minutes to go that our luck had run out.
And the replay then went 2-15 to 1-15. It went to extra time, Sheamus. Gee, there were some battles.
Yeah, certainly there were massive battles, and but having said, when it went to extra time and the replay, we knew we had a lot of work done. And in fairness to John O'Keefe, that year he had us in fantastic shape.
You were leading your team out in the All-Ireland final against Galway, Sheamus, and that finished in another draw. What is it like, Sheamus, to come away from Croke Park after drawing an All-Ireland final?
Yeah, I tell you, Weeshie, it's a far nicer experience to go off the field with a draw than to be beaten. And I've experienced both, and there's no worse place to be when you lose in All Ireland. And unfortunately, we experienced that in 2002 and 2005 after the 2000 final. But as I said, Weeshie, any result is a good result, bar losing in Croke Park.
But you had an unusual experience as a Kerry captain, Sheamus, because you didn't have to climb up the Horgan stand. The cup was presented in the middle of Croke Park. Now, I know it didn't take away from it, but it was unusual. And what did it feel like not to be going up in the Horgan stand?
Yeah, it was certainly, it was different. Weeshie, obviously, I suppose there's a lot of history attached going up the steps of the Horgan stand. And, you know, I suppose GA at that time had decided, I suppose for safety reasons, stuff like that they were going to just to do the presentation within the field. And, you know, there are things that you don't really think about. You know, at the end of the day, all you want to do is win the game, and whatever happens after that, you know, you'll just take it. It was disappointing that none of the Kerry crowd were allowed to come onto the field, and it would have been nicer to get up in the Horgan. But having said that, you know, when you win the All-Ireland, you'll take the Sam Maguire anywhere, and you know, we were just so happy to win it that year. It didn't really matter.
You'd always be slow to talk about any one individual player or anything, but you have mentioned him already. We must talk about him, Maurice Fitzgerald, and you played so much football with him. And the year that you captained Kerry in 2000, and you spoke about his greatness, Sheamus, he was unique, he was different. There was only one Maurice Fitzgerald, and there probably never will be another one.
Absolutely.
What had he? What made him so different?
He was class, Weeshie. You know, his ability to kick left and right. He had this radar-like ability to put the ball over the bar, and you know, he was just a fantastic footballer. And you know, Maurice is a guy who's a very shy kind of a guy, but on the field, you know, he took control. He had just a great gift.
All captains that we've spoken to, Sheamus, have told us that their greatest moment was bringing the cup back across the border, and also bringing it to their home place. The night that you brought it back with your teammate, the great Johnny Crowley, out to Glenflesk, that was a wonderful occasion. Bringing it back to Kerry and bringing it to Shron-the-Rock and bringing it to Glenflesk.
Yeah, absolutely, Weeshie. I think, you know, there are memories that will stick with you forever. I think, you know, obviously coming into Tralee and Killarney that night, especially Killarney, because I went to secondary school here, and you know, I'm working here, and the night in 2000 was fantastic. There was a huge crowd inside in Killarney, and you know, we got a fantastic reception. And obviously coming out to Glenflesk the following night, then going back to your own club, and you know, for all the locals, it meant so much. And you know, obviously coming from a small club, the parish wouldn't be used to it, and we would have only had a few players representing Kerry over the years, so it was rather unique that John and myself were around at the same time, and it was a fantastic honour for us to go out. And as I said, there's so many parts of the jigsaw for that to happen, and you know, for East Kerry to win, Glenflesk to win the Undertook Cup afterwards, so to get the opportunity to captain Kerry was great, and to go out that night, it was an absolutely magical night.
Dara O'Sullivan played with Kerry from 1995 till 2005. In 54 championship appearances, he scored a massive total of 11 goals and 149 points. He captained Kerry to victory in 2004. Dara, was 2004 that day that you mounted the steps of the Horgan stand? Was that your biggest day of your life?
It was a great memory, all right, I suppose. You know, you tend to think the club stuff and the stuff closer to home is probably a bit bigger. And in the same year we lost an All-Ireland club final, and that probably hurt more than any of the All-Irelands we lost with Kerry. But it was a huge privilege, and I think it was a bit of compensation for the club as well, in the same year that one of their own would be going up collecting the cup. And you know, it was a big deal to bring the cup back to the Gaeltacht, because I know Paddy O'Shea had it done in 1985, and he had it done, I suppose, because of West Kerry's success in the county championship. We managed to get Dara O'Shea as captain in 2002, and it didn't work out. We lost to Armagh by a point, and Dara was very unlucky as captain as well. He was very unlucky. He was captain of that club team in 2004. So I suppose me getting the Sam Maguire was kind of representing all that as well, all that pain and all that anguish as well. You know, that we had all that those couple of years there where Armagh beat us, Tyrone beat us, and Meath beat us previous to that again. And I think we got our act together. And I suppose the fact that I was captain from the Gaeltacht was a bit extra special for the Gaeltacht people, but for Kerry people, I suppose it was another All-Ireland for Kerry, really. Limerick were probably our toughest opposition all that year. It's probably surprising to say it at this remove now, where Limerick might have regressed in the last couple of years, but they were a very, very tough opponent at that time. They had adopted this northern style of football under Liam Kearns, which we had obviously in the previous years found very hard to play against, and we went on to beat one of the northern teams in the semi-final.
The final against Mayo Din, Dara, you were well prepared for that. You came out of the traps very hard that day.
It was unbelievable. I never saw a team as ready as they were, and we were very conscious of the fact that we were missing our two probably best players, more influential players, Sheamus Moynihan and Dara O'Sullivan, for that game. Dara had injured himself against Derry in the semi-final, had broken a bone in his foot, and Sheamus had had his problems with his ankle all year. So we were keen to prove a point as well. There was a theory out there that we couldn't win games and big games without those two lads, and I think individually every player wanted to win it just to prove that, and not so much for them, but just to prove that we were very much a team now and not reliant on individuals and individual bits of genius, whereas over the years maybe Maurice Fitzgerald might have pulled us through, and maybe individual performances might have pulled us through in All-Ireland finally. I think as a team we played very well that day, and we were very, very, very prepared for that game. I never saw a calmer dressing room before a game. I think we were very focused. There was very little talking needed, and I suppose, speaking of genius, Colm Cooper certainly produced it on the day, the final that day as well. But we were out of sight at half time really, and it's not been disrespectful to me. I don't think too many teams would have beaten us in the form we were in that particular day.
Exposed their limitations. He ran through and belted it in past Peter Burke.
Was that year different in relation to what your position was in the team? Did you have to do anything different because you were captain? Is the captaincy a burden?
It's not really. I think I was very fortunate at the time I got captaincy. I was 29 years of age. I was 10 years playing with the team at that stage nearly, and I think I would have been talking a bit in the dressing room anyway, and I'd been talking a bit privately to fellas on the team. It was Jack O'Connor's first year in charge. He had brought in Pat Flanagan as a physical trainer, and they had an awful lot of getting to know you kind of sessions, and they did an awful lot of things differently to what had been done previously, and that's maybe in the early stages of the year where my role would have been getting on the phone to fellas and saying, look, we'll go with this and let's trust these lads, and we all bought into it, and we had a very good National League campaign, and it was the role of the captain at that stage was just communicating with lads off the field, after training, how during the weekdays we weren't training and stuff like that, and then after you win All-Ireland, I suppose the role of the captain becomes magnified really, because you're just a kind of a symbol of the team really, and you represent the team where the rest of the lads are off having their fun. You kind of have to toe the line a small bit and you play a small bit of an ambassadorial role.
But for you, Dara, coming from the depth and the heart of the Gaeltacht, what's very memorable to most Kerry people all around the world was listening to you giving your speech entirely in Irish that day. It was absolutely riveting, a fascinating speech. You might give us a little taste of what you said that day.
Ardín sé mo chrí go hána bhlachas an cordan sa buan cordan sam magrí a hárdach har ceann imreoirí loch barhan stíochta loch doraíochta agus loch tacaíochta noraíochta.
What were the highlights of the homecoming to you, Dara? What remains etched in your memory about bringing home the cup into the county?
I suppose, if you ask any captain, it's obviously bringing it home to your home parish, and you don't want to be too parochial about it because there's 30 players in the team, and they might have no interest in your home parish. But in fairness to the lads, to a man, they turned out, and on the Tuesday night, I think it's tradition now in Kerry that you go to Tralee and Killarney on a Monday with the cup, and it's a huge reception. I suppose, 97 opened our eyes to all that. That was our first time seeing it, and then after that it became bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's absolutely phenomenal now in 2009 that they're doing it again. But the homecoming is very personal, and you get people who don't necessarily go to football matches, old people, a lot of whom would have passed on since, and wouldn't have had a whole interest in football, and they would have been very conscious, I suppose, of Paddy Shea captain in Kerry in '85. And the Gaeltacht is a very big area, and they can get even parochial within the Gaeltacht, and the fact that I was from the bottom of Mount Brandon, their parish, got very personal. There was a lot of old people very emotional about it, and there was huge support. I remember travelling, once you cross Milltown Bridge, you're in the Gaeltacht, which is, the rest of it is Dingle parish, in football. That'd be a keen rivalry there as well. It was 14 bonfires. I remember thinking it was like our Lord going to on top of the mountain, the stations of the cross. But it was. I think it was a nice touch by the locals that they all felt they had to light a bonfire to welcome Sam Maguire home.
Finally, Dara, would you have been conscious of the Kerry captains that had gone before you? Were you conscious of the fact that the great Joe Barrett was the first man to be presented with the Sam Maguire Cup and bring it home? I would imagine you would be a traditionalist.
You're reared in all those stories, back in the Gaeltacht even, there's you hear all these stories, and obviously there's, you know, we had seen so little of it. Like we have an awful lot of medals in our club, but you know, some of them would have been won maybe back in the 30s and 40s, and Paddy O'Shea would have been the one in people's memory. But then, as you're growing up, you're told these stories about players that would have played in other eras, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and right up along. Like, and you become very conscious of that. Like, and you know, they'll be the first people to tell you those that still survive that the game today is totally different. But at the same time, there's a respect there.
The legendary Dick Fitzgerald from Killarney, captain Kerry to victory in 1913 and 1914. Then in 2006 and 2007, a young man from Drummond, down in South Kerry, Declan O'Sullivan, achieved the very same honour. Declan, looking back at it now, what does it mean?
Do it once is very special, but I suppose it's beyond the wildest dreams to do it twice. And great honour for myself and family and club and the whole lot. I suppose it was interesting there. I suppose after the second time being captain, Christmas Eve, I had the cup down in South Kerry and came across Deenihan, who was the last man to do it for Dublin, and with a nice picture taken, I have that at home. So they're great memories to have.
Were you conscious, Declan, going in the second time that Dick Fitzgerald had done it in 13-14? Would you be a man that would look into Kerry history like that?
Not particularly, no, to be honest. I think coming up to All-Ireland final, you try concentrating the game particularly. Like, you don't want to bring extra pressure onto yourself, and I think there's enough to be doing the golden play, and the added pressure of captaincy as well brings its own bit. But you don't need to be adding to that, and I think maybe after really kind of, you know, got to realise the magnitude of it, I suppose.
Mayo and Cork were the two teams you defeated in those All-Ireland finals. You were flying, you ran up great scores. Any special memories out of those two games, Declan?
I think the big memories of those is how the whole team performed very well in the day, and you know, that's a big worry going into an All-Ireland final, that, you know, you hate to play badly in an All-Ireland final, and certainly those two finals, the whole 15 and panel and the management really acquitted themselves very well, and they were great team performances. And obviously great memories after then, lifting the cup with Colm Cooper. You know, the first year was a very special moment for all of Kerry, I think, and certainly that's some great memories. Bringing the cup down to Drummond as well. I suppose after being captain in 2005 and losing that final, I thought maybe it wouldn't happen again, but certainly going down with Jack in 2006 was a very special moment as well.
You mentioned there lifting the cup with Colm. You brought Colm up with you because I think he had been captain earlier on in the year. Did something happen there?
Yeah, we played Cork in the Munster final. We got beaten that day and I got taken off, so I was dropped in for the qualifier game against Longford and Armagh along the way then, so I got back in for the final against Mayo, and obviously Colm had done a great job, so it was a very special moment for the both of us, I suppose, to go up and lift the cup.
What was going through your mind, Declan, when you were standing above the steps of the Horgan stand on both occasions? Anything special? Were you thinking of your family, thinking of Kerry people are looking out in the sea of green and gold?
Yeah, geez, it's a very special, I suppose the adrenaline is pumping. You're looking down at maybe 50,000 Kerrymen down the Crow Park, and you're there with your teammates, and you know, it's a great feeling there. And I was very lucky as well, my family were all around me as well, and I got to meet them before I lifted the cup, so you get very emotional, I think, around the All-Ireland final day. Family, friends, people who might be no longer with you and stuff like that, so all that went through my mind when I was up and waiting to accept the cup, and as I say, very special times.
When you were a young fellow growing up, did you dream of captaining Kerry? Did you probably never dreamt of captaining twice to victory anyway?
Not at all. To be honest, I probably didn't dream of even playing with Kerry. You know, coming from a club like Drummond, I suppose there wouldn't have been a huge tradition of Kerry players coming from there. So, I suppose my main objective when I was young is to play with Drummond and to try to be as successful as possible. But I suppose Jack was a big influence on me. He came in, you know, when I was underage. He came back and you know, built Deenihan Tarvin and got involved with Drummond Club, and he became a huge influence in my career and really gave me the confidence, I suppose, with the school teams and that to really aim higher and aim to play with the Kerry jersey, I suppose.
What are your memories, Declan, of getting on the train above in Dublin and coming back, crossing the border, coming to Kerry, and then bringing it back to Drummond, your own club?
Yeah, they're very special journeys coming down after winning All-Ireland. I suppose there's so much pressure and tension, I suppose, leading up to an All-Ireland final for the whole squad. It's great in the following day to be coming down and having a laugh with your teammates, and I suppose all the hard work for the whole year, you're enjoying it coming down, and it's very special. And coming into Rathmore then, and you're crossing the border in there, and the reception you get there, and Tralee and Killarney, it's very, very special. And you know, those memories will stay with you for life, you know. But I suppose particularly then going down to Drummond would have been a huge event in both myself and Jack's, you know, life, and something that I'll always treasure, and the effort and the preparation that the people of Drummond put into making sure it was a great welcome home for the whole team, and you know, all the players went down and it was a great night down there.
Of course, the fact that you were captain both years was for the simple reason that South Kerry were county champions. So there was a lot of people helped you become captain, and there was a lot behind it, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely, and it's a great sense of achievement, you know, talking to the South Kerry fellas. You know, we won 3 in a row there, and all those fellas feel part of it, and rightly so, because as you say, I wouldn't have been there only for those fellas, and my own club Drummond won it the first year that I was captain. So as you say, they have a great sense of achievement as well in the fact that I've lifted the Sam Maguire, and that's the way it should be. And I think it's a great sign of Kerry football that all those people can feel such an achievement and a part of the Kerry team.
You had been conscious, of course, that Mick O'Connell had captained Kerry in 1959. You met him on a good few occasions, of course, naturally enough. The fact that he had captained them, you came along then to become the next man. That was very special.
Oh, very, very special. And, you know, that's the tradition of GA, like, you know. But I managed to bring the cup down out of the dressing room anyway, so that was the main thing.
So finally, Declan, would you have visions of maybe doing it a third time?
To be honest, as you said before, it's a big achievement to do it once. It's once in a lifetime thing. I was lucky enough to maybe achieve it twice, but there's plenty more fellas down in South Kerry if the captaincy does come down there again to lead Kerry out in Croke Park, and I think it's there from now on, to be honest.
Very rarely do Kerry captains get to receive it 2 years running. Declan O'Sullivan is such a captain. 2 in a row for Kerry. They're champions once again.
Dan, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're following in a long list of illustrious Kerry footballers. What does it mean to you?
It means everything, to be honest. You know, I grew up kind of watching the Kerry golden years and videos of past captains lifting it, and you know, you always dream of what it'd be like, but I suppose at the back of your mind you never really think it's going to become a reality. It's always there as a dream, but to finally get the opportunity to do it, I feel very fortunate.
What was going through your mind, Dan, when you were waiting for the cup to be presented to you? You were standing on the Horgan stand and the president of the GA was going to present it to you. Was there any special thoughts flashing through your mind?
It was, I'll be honest, I haven't really thought too much about it since. It's all been a bit of a blur, but I just remember looking out and I could just see the Kerry fans coming in and they swarming onto the field. I just remember kind of thinking, geez, they came out in force today. So I suppose the nerves started kicking off then about the speech, but no, it's an amazing feeling when the Sam Maguire got handed over.
The most famous trophy in Irish sport is handed over to Dara O'Sullivan. Sam Maguire goes back to Kerry. They are the winners for the 36th time.
Was it something you had dreamt about since you were a young fella? Was it something that you had aspired to? Or did the whole thing come to you down as a huge shock and a surprise at the end?
I suppose it was probably a couple of days after I went away, and I got a bit of time of my own, and I kind of thought about it. It kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, just captain Kerry to an All-Ireland. So obviously that was, you know, I got a bit of time to my own just to think about what an achievement was and how lucky I was and how proud I am and how great it was for my family and my friends and obviously the club here, Glencar.
Were you aware, Dan, that it was in 1903 that the first man had captained Kerry, like Tim O'Gorm, like we said, and looking back through the mists of time and looking back through the decades, would you be a man that would do that?
I didn't know it was 1903. I actually thought it was a bit earlier. But no, it was only the week leading up to the game I started kind of flicking through the books and flicking through it all, and I went back and I just remember it was actually at the function after the game and I was standing there and Declan O'Sullivan came up to me and he shook my hand and he just said, "Welcome to the club." So that kind of, it started to sink in then after that of what I'd been lucky enough to achieve.
Yeah, of course, we're here now overlooking the beautiful beach here in Osprey. Your club, of course, is Glencar. Kerry won the county championship, and it was through those two things that you became captain. What did they mean to you?
Oh, it was massive. Like, you know, being from a small club, obviously, when you're going up through the ranks, you probably don't expect even to play for Kerry, never mind get the opportunity to captain him. So obviously that's massive, and obviously the fact that Mick Kerry won the championship last year, it was the reason I got the opportunity. So obviously I owe a massive debt to all the boys and James Sheehan, who came in from Claude and training him, but just the effort that the boys put in the last couple of years for Mick Kerry, they're the reason that I got the opportunity to fulfil this dream, I suppose.
2 nights after you winning the All-Ireland, you brought the cup back to your own place. I think myself there's nothing more poignant in Kerry football than to see Kerry captain bringing the cup back to his own place, whether it is a town or a village. Bonfires blazed, there was thousands of people in Glenbeigh that night. You were the man they were all looking at. What did all that mean to you? What are your memories of that night in Glenbeigh, Dom?
It was great. I just remember sitting on the bus coming through, and I was there with Aidan Shea, like, and just looking out at the crowd that had come out to see us and welcome us home and welcome all the boys, and it was absolutely brilliant. I was standing on the stage after, like, and there was a few speeches going on, and I kind of zoned out from the speeches, and I kind of just started looking around at everyone, and just the amount of people that came out to welcome us home, and just showed how much it meant to people around, not only Glenbeigh but Mick Kerry and Kerry as a whole, because there was people from all over the county here.
Of course, you were a very unique captain because you were a Kerry captain and was born in England. So that sets you apart, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but we keep that quiet.
Yes, yeah. Of course, your mum and dad are from this area here, aren't they?
Yeah, so I was always going to come home.
Yeah. The duties of the captain, of course, is to bring the cup everywhere. You're going to London shortly?
Yeah, going to London now, Friday, and that should be a great night over to the Kerry London Association. Obviously, I owe them a big thank you as well, because that's where I started my football with the Donegal club, if you could imagine it. But obviously I played football over in London for 2 years, and obviously it'd be great to go back, and I'm sure that a lot of them are very proud of what I've achieved. So it'd be nice to see a few old faces over and just see what it means to the Kerry people living over in London.
Finally, Dan, how have things been since the final? I know you've been very, very busy. You mentioned to me that it's harder after than it was before or during.
Yeah, the football's the easy part of it, to be honest. No, but it's great. You know, at times you might get a bit tired and you'd be pulled, but you know what? I wouldn't swap it for the world. It would be worse if no one wanted to talk to you.
So it's something that will remain forever with you in your memory, Dan?
I will, of course. It's just something I can always look back on now and I can always be proud of. Yeah. The fact that I got to captain the greatest footballing team out there.
The most famous trophy in Irish sport is handed over to Dara O'Sullivan. Sam Maguire goes back to Kerry. They are the winners for the 36th time.
And as we come to the end of this historic film on the history of Kerry football, we met up with the now present manager of the Kerry team, Jack O'Connell. Jack, 3 years again now in charge of Kerry. Tough job.
It is, Weeshie, but sure, it's a job that I love doing, and it's a job I'm looking forward to. You know, I've had a few great years now, and we've had good success. So here's looking to the next couple of years now to see if we can bring it back again.
In the 3 years now that you're going to be in charge, Jack, there's going to be 3 captains leading Kerry out onto Fitzgerald Stadium and hopefully onto Croke Park. Are you happy the way the captains are selected in Kerry in the tradition that's there?
Well, it has served Kerry well up to now. We won 36 titles with that system. Obviously, there are people that think that you know, management should be allowed to pick the captain, but you know, who am I to say that the system hasn't served us well up to now? And it's been a great story, I suppose, for small clubs. You know, the likes of my own club, Drummond Pierces, and a club like Glenbeigh, Carr, clubs like that. You know, small clubs who normally wouldn't have a chance of having the captaincy. You know, the fact that divisional teams have won the county championship has allowed them to have the honour of leading Kerry.
Yeah, and you mentioned your own club, and of course we were talking about Declan O'Sullivan, who had the unique honour of captaining Kerry twice. It was only done a couple of times before by Kerry men. Wonderful occasion to see the cup coming back to Drummond and back to one of the smallest clubs in the country. So that bears out what you were saying about the captaincy.
Yeah, that was a great night. All right, it was the worst night that ever blew. I think there was a howling gale that night out in Drummond. The marquee nearly got blown away, but it was an unforgettable night, and you know, something that I suppose the people of the valley never thought they'd see happening. But you know, it happened 2 years in a row, 2006 and 2007, and that was fantastic for the local people.
Talking about All Ireland's coming back to Kerry, we're here now in Keliher and Skellige. Beautiful morning here, Jack, where you teach yourself and have been, of course. You've seen a good few All Ireland's coming back here, and you've helped bring them back, so more captains coming back to here.
Yeah, you know, I suppose when the school was built here in '99, I suppose it opened. Weeshie, I suppose that was our dream down this neck of the woods, to make a nursery out of Keliher and Skellige, the way, you know, St Brendan's, Killarney and Tralee CBS and all the other great schools have been. And you know, we had a few great campaigns. We won a couple of vocational All-Irelands. You know, that gave us the desire, I suppose, to go on and see how football would develop in the area. And you know, eventually we achieved the Holy Grail in 2009. And it was just a fantastic achievement for the school, just 10 years old, to bring back the Horgan Cup. So that was an occasion we'll never forget.
When you were growing up, Jack, when you were smart, what's your earliest memory of seeing the Sam Maguire Cup coming back to Kerry or coming back to Caherciveen?
The first time I would have seen the Sam Maguire coming south was the Malus Fitzgerald All-Ireland '97. I was involved as a selector myself, but that would have been the first time that I would have seen the Sam Maguire down in Caherciveen. So it took a while.
Teddy Gorman was not Kerry's first All-Ireland winning captain. In 1891, John O'Mahony captained Ballyduff when they won the All-Ireland hurling title of that year. Jerome Conway is the chairman of the Kerry County Board. He looks back and recalls that great victory.
There were only 3 teams in the county final in the county championship in 1891, the county hurling championship, and Ballyduff won it. They went on then to represent Kerry in the All-Ireland series, and lo and behold, brought the first All-Ireland back to Kerry. Now, the following year, Down Rangers went to the All-Ireland final, 1892. And it always amazes me how it was the team that lost in 1892 that has attracted the most support in this county. You would imagine it should go to the team that won in 1891, but I suppose the fact that Lone Rangers got such great sympathy from the public after having lost to Young Islanders in Dublin, I suppose that's the reason that people followed football more than hurling in this county. In truth, it has been the wonder of GA how Kerry has been so successful, considering our remoteness. But maybe that has contributed to our achievements.
And so we come to the end of what has been an incredible journey. We've endeavoured to bring to you the greatness, the traditions, the history and the uniqueness of Kerry football. So you've asked what's the secret of Kerry, and I've tried to answer your call. But things I have told are so true and so old that they aren't a secret at all.